Hello world! I'm your host, Data Mining Mike, and on this episode of the podcast, we are going to talk about, will the VA pay for cybersecurity boot camp? Today's guest is Lucas Yamane. He's an Air Force veteran with a harrowing story. After surviving Afghanistan and cancer, he reinvented himself as a cybersecurity specialist. I am highly confident at the end of this period of instruction, you will be able to take what you have learned and apply it to your brand or business, and that's called value. And because of that, you should like this video. Remember that sharing is caring. Check out all of Luke's information in the video description. Please comment below. Subscribing is what winners do, but smashing the bell is what legends do. This channel breeds legends. But first, I want to talk about an amazing company called Honda Motors, or HMC. While the rest of the world goes to electric vehicles, Honda still puts its focus on small combustion engines. While some people only recognize Honda as a car manufacturer, it also manufactures an array of amazing quality small engines such as jet skis, lawnmowers, snowblowers, motorcycles, gas generators, and is considered the Rolls Royce of boat engines. Not only is Honda an amazing stock with consistent year-over-year growth, it pays a decent dividend. Honda, ticker symbol HMC.
Get your heart out there.
Yeah, you can play with the AT-4 rocket launcher.
Dude, I noticed, so weapons and field training battalion, so is that where you work?
Yes. After I re-enlisted, I got a choice to go wherever I wanted to, and I said I want to go to Edson Range, which was local in Camp Pendleton, and I started what was it? Training recruits. So I went through this, and then it was a great time. I shot competitively. Every day, all day working on a rifle range, day in, day out, dude. Training recruits, crazy stories.
That. Yeah.
It was a good time though. I mean, it was more a stable schedule, so I could go to school afterward. So yeah. But yeah, man, we're definitely live. So
good.
Tell the world about you. Tell the world about Luke.
Well, my name's Lucas. I go by Luke most of the times, although I've been known by many names. Some that are best probably left unsaid for YouTube.
And we've been drinking, so you can't hold us liable.
No, you can't hold it against me.
We've been saying cheers.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Where to even begin with that? I guess, as far as...
Let's start with Afghanistan. Let's
Okay.
start all the way back from the day you were Luke in Afghanistan to how you became Luke now.
Okay. Well, so for I was a 2WOX1, munitions systems. My job, I was a munitions inspector. When I got to my base was Hill Air Force Base in Utah, and it's the depot, kind of where the joke is with that is that's where they send everything broken. And I had previously tried other things and kind of messed up my body doing those. And but munitions inspectors, we deploy alone. So from my unit, I had signed up for 6.5 years. My enlistment was coming up, but I hadn't deployed yet because I was married and my ex-wife had medical issues, so they wouldn't deploy me. And the deployment came up, and I was like, hell or high water, I'm getting a deployment. Mm-hmm. And so they actually extended me 6 months so I could deploy, and it was to Kandahar. Kind of a backstory with that, when I found out I was going to Kandahar, was that one of my good friends in high school who went Army, he had been killed there about a year prior. Actually, almost to the day of me deploying. He had been killed in the Kandahar province. And so it was kind of like a surreal thing of like, I get to go now to where my buddy was killed. And so, yeah, I took it. I jumped on the chance. I didn't realize that I was deploying alone. Still pretty young kid. Would have been 24. 20, yeah, so at that point, I was 6 years in. I came in when I was 19, so yeah, I was 25. And yeah, it was a really interesting experience. I mean, before I even left the States, I'd found out that my ex-wife was doing bad stuff, I guess. Goofing around. We'll leave it kind of PG, I guess, at that point for if my kids do hear. And so I hadn't even left the States. I was in Norfolk waiting to ship. Got there scared to hell. I mean, I was alone. Like, I had no clue what I was doing. And get there, find out all that crap's going on. I'm like, gosh dang it, I haven't even left. Like, are they going to pull my orders now? Am I going to get shipped back home and have to deal with this BS? And luckily, nobody had found out yet what was going on. And so I was able to actually get on the plane and go. And we ended up going kind of the roundabout way to get to Afghanistan. I don't know where most people end up going through, but ours actually took us through Ireland. So we flew to Ireland, and then we flew to Romania, and then from Romania to Kyrgyzstan, where we waited.
In Manas?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I never paid attention. I was just too busy trying to freaking figure out what the hell was going on.
Yeah, no worries. That's a lot of trauma too.
I had met just through like talking to, because I mean, while I deployed for my unit alone, there was still 150, 200 other guys that were deploying also, but just for they're going their own wherever. But I had actually met a couple other guys that were going to the same unit I was.
What did they tell you your mission was?
So, munitions inspector.
Okay.
For those unfamiliar with what a weapons system guy does, the easy way to put it, I guess, is we build bombs, right? It's a little bit more technical than that. The bomb is actually already built. If you look at a Mark 82, Mark 84, those are a 2,000 and a 4,000 pound bomb. They're called a dumb bomb because all they are is a metal casing filled with tritonol or whatever explosive mix they want. Our job as munitions systems guys, we ran the wiring and the fuses. So for those large explosions, large bombs, there's something called the explosive train. So for most of those weapons are relatively inert. You can't set them off by hitting it with a hammer. That's one of the things they mess with you when you go through tech schools. Your instructor will come out and whack a bomb with a stinking hammer, and you're like, what are you doing? Like, no, it can't be set off with that. It has to have an initiator that then creates the chain. You have the initiator, your booster, and then the actual explosive. And so we install the initiator. That's not happy.
It does that every once in a while. So you installed the initiator, booster, and wiring.
Yeah, and then put on the fin kit, that kind of stuff. So that's what a munitions system guy does. Me as an inspector, my job was to inspect those pieces for form, fit, and function. Make sure that they're actually going to perform, that after they've been installed on the bomb, that everything's wiring's done right and everything, because if you don't wire it right, it gets hung and the aircraft can't drop it. Things like that.
Interesting.
So that's what my job was. That's what I was deploying to do. Was I was going to Kandahar because obviously we got to build munitions out there for the aircraft to drop. And so my job was to go out and be the inspector, make sure that things were put together right, basically. That was what I was told, that I was going to be doing. Now you end up doing other things on top of that. We supported A-10s, the A-10 airframe. So 30 millimeter. We ran tons of 30 millimeter rounds. They come in a big belt, more or less, plastic tubes that are tied together with string, and that's how they're loaded into the aircraft, and also how they're unloaded from the aircraft is into these tubes.
How many yards was it?
Man, the can itself was 4 feet tall and about 4 foot. Well, yeah, about 4 foot long, and they're double cans, and they're only about as wide as a 30 millimeter round. So I mean,
30 millimeters.
It's big. Basically, I mean, that would be about the size of a 30 millimeter. I don't know how many. I mean, I think each one was 300. Each can was 300, I think. It's been so long I don't remember. But the cans were double cans, so you had one side, it was 2 cans basically bolted together, so you had about 600 rounds in a set of cans, and they would take those out to the airframe and load them from there.
Just reminded me of, like, in World War II, the phrase "the whole 9 yards" came from.
Oh yeah,
9 yards of belt.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a good question. I actually don't even know. Yeah, I don't remember. And I'm sorry, they weren't loaded directly from the can.
But either way, so your job was to
we had a thing called the Dragon.
Munitions that before they went from the ammo supply point where you were.
Yep.
And it's gonna go. You're like, oh yeah, these are good to go. And then they get carted off to the aircraft and loaded onto the aircraft by the air wingers.
Yep, exactly.
Gotcha.
Yep. Yeah, armament troops.
So how did it feel when you first got to Kandahar? And where were you in Kandahar?
So it was the actual Kandahar airfield. We took that over, and that's where we had 50 some odd nations that were on that base.
How big was it? I've never been to Kandahar.
Man, it was... Spokane International Airport. Take something like that. But then all the field land around it, too. And that's where you had compounds for different nations and stuff like that. I mean, getting there, it was surreal. I wasn't scared. Like, I mean, I was relatively okay with it. I was more nervous that I wouldn't find where I needed to go. 'Cause that was the other thing with it, is there was no real squadron support from back home. We were given a packet, like, okay, well, this is where you go when you get there. No real point of contact. I have no real, like, lead on where I should go, what time I should be there, who I'm actually meeting. And so my only real saving grace was that I had the 2 other guys that I met on the flight over that were going to the same squadron I was. And so I just kind of palled with them. I was like, sweet, you guys obviously know where we're going. So they put you in, when you first get there, you don't get assigned a barracks or a pod or anything like that right off the bat. You're actually housed in their I always call it the AFI, awaiting further instructions area, it was like a huge warehouse that just had bunks.
Mm-hmm.
Bunks for days. And that's where you're living. Find a bunk. And so you find a bunk, you throw some blankets up so you got a little bit of privacy once you get in there.
Mm-hmm.
And you stay there for, I think, 2 weeks before they finally like have found you a pod. And then you move into a pod, which is like a single wide trailer that's been cut off into like 4 different bedrooms with 6 different people to each room. And that first 2 weeks was kind of odd because while we had contact with the squadron of where we were going, it was nobody. Like, nobody coming to check on us. And so the first 2 weeks, we were kind of like, what do we do? Like, you know, so the first 2 weeks, it was just going to goof off and, all right, well, I'm going to go work out. I'm going to go to, at that time, they had the boardwalk still. The boardwalk was in the middle of the base. Obviously not the flight line, but it was a big soccer field that they built decking all the way around it. And then the Afghans would pull up their trailers and literally set up restaurants and stuff all the way around it. And so you have stores. They had KFC. I remember it was probably the best KFC I've ever had. And probably because it wasn't chicken. But, I mean, I stinking loved it. And I smoked at the time still, so I was like, you pick up a carton of cigarettes for $5. A carton of cigarettes for $5. And I was like, I'm in heaven. Like, this is great. I mean, I still going through my issues back home. Didn't really, I mean, there's a lot of it that was my own fault with a lot of that too. But, I mean, it was, I mean, I decided, like, okay, well, we're getting a divorce. So I was dealing with that stuff. But outside of that, like, man, I didn't have to worry about anything. My bills were being paid. I had everything set up for auto pay. Everything was cheap, so it wasn't like I was blowing money. It was like everything that I needed was right there. The only thing that ticked me off was it was NA, like you couldn't buy beer, so there's no beer. So I actually found some. They did sell NA beer, so I found a crate of St. Paulie's Girl.
St. Paulie's Girl,
and,
yeah.
Oh my God.
I can't
I
believe they
drank
ever
the
sold
crap out of
non-alcoholic
that.
beer until you
Oh,
see
yeah.
those titties on that lady.
Oh yeah,
Like non-alcoholic
dude,
titties.
Freaking! I mean, that was that. I was like, because I drank, I still drink, but I drank a lot more back then, and I mean, it was kind of hang out for 2 weeks, and then they finally move you in. You get your debrief from the guys that are leaving, which was like, hey, the bomb dump's there. Like, here's your keys to the car. So you know, we had a bobtail, and then we had oh my gosh, the diesel Toyota. We had a Prado, but then we also had a Hilux, I think. And we mobbed the living crap. I mean, so did the guys before us. Just beat the living tar out of those rigs. But yeah, our compound where we were, obviously we didn't live in the bomb dump, but we were on the outskirts of it. We shared our little compound with the Marines. I don't know if they were ordnance. I don't remember if they were ordnance or not, because they didn't go out to the bomb dump. But we had some Marines out there. And yeah, I mean, it was kind of, all right, well, here we are. And then I worked mid shift, So I worked noon to midnight, 6 days on, 1 day off, pretty much, unless there's something heavy going down. I deployed from January to August of 2011. For those that are sensitive with dates, you'll recognize that that's right around the time that we got Bin Laden.
Yeah, I was there from January. Similar time frame.
Yeah.
So
you remember
February to end of September, early October we got back.
Okay. Yep. So you remember it
Yeah,
got a
2011.
got a little
I
hairy.
remember that day.
Yeah.
Osama bin Laden was killed, and
Yeah.
everybody in the CP and stuff were talking about it, and I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't matter. Yeah.
The guys who went on that mission, we supplied their munitions.
Oh, cool.
And so we were part of arming up their stuff going over. And so rockets and 20 millimeter and all of that too. We did all that. But yeah, I mean, I didn't get any fights. Didn't really get shot at. I mean, there's obviously the mortars, the rockets, and all that crap that went off. We did have, I think 4 or 5 people get killed on base while I was there.
Yeah.
So, but what do you do? I mean, the first month you're there and the sirens go off, you know, oh my gosh, and you jump and you're on the ground, and then it's run to the bunker. So anytime you hear the siren goes off, it means an inbound rocket or mortar.
Okay.
And so they'll go off base wide all the time, and it could be a false alarm. Maybe I can never remember the name of the system. I know they had one of those auto gun systems that flicks up and will shoot mortars and stuff out of the air, but they're not reliable. They'll miss, and people still get blown up. And yeah, about a month after that, it just becomes a motion. Like, you'd be laying in your rack at night. It's 2 or 3 in the morning. Like, I just got off of shift. I'm trying to go to sleep now. And the siren goes off. And you're like, no, I'm just going to lay here. If it hits my pod, it hits my pod.
It's my time. It's my time.
I'm done. Like, I am not rolling out of bed. And, yeah, I mean, there's quite a few times. I mean, it was every night. We probably had at least 4 or 5 rocket attacks or mortar attacks a day. The closest one, I think, was the one that hit our chow hall that we normally go to, which is about a 20-minute walk from where we worked. So where we lived was actually across the base. We lived in pods that were across the airfield on the other side of the base. And then we would take the perimeter road all the way around to where we actually worked. And there was a chow hall that was pretty close to where we worked, and that got hit. And there's a lady? No, the lady was at the gym. There was a guy that got killed there at the chow hall. Which is kind of crazy, because all it is basically shut down one side of the chow hall. And then they just kept it open, and you go in and go eat. Like,
hey, people are hungry.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, everything was good that first 2 weeks. It wasn't until I actually got to the squadron, got my turnover, and then they found out that I was dealing with stuff at home. And my major came to me. My colonel came to me and basically told me, hey, we know what's going on. I'm going to have to ask you for your rifle. I'm like, wait, you're going to ask me for my rifle? What? Like, it's not you guys I want to shoot. Like, I love it here. I'll stay here. Give me just let me stay here. And so they confiscated my rifle and started filling out my paperwork, telling me that they're going to send me back home. I'd only been there 2 weeks. And they're going to send me home already. And I'm like, oh, damn it. All right, well, if you send me home, you're sending me to prison because I'm still heated. And the way that all played out was OSI had to get involved with it and everything else, and actually get the truth out of her. And
I don't know what OSI is.
OSI is the Office of Special Investigations. They're like the FBI of the Air Force, but they do a little bit more specialized investigations. And
so she must have been in some ratchet ass shit.
oh man, it was so bad. It was so bad.
Holy shit.
Like it's really hard for me to like, because I want to like, I could go on for like 2 hours of just about one thing.
Yeah,
like,
it's
because there's
alright.
so much stuff. There's so much stuff. So I mean, she cost me promotion twice. She got caught shoplifting on base.
Oh yeah,
Like all that crap.
this is common.
dude,
These
it was-
military
it was
wives
so
act like
bad.
spoiled little brats.
It was
and they
so bad.
They're
Yeah.
they're bad.
Yeah.
They're like military brats,
Yeah.
but women. And the fact is, they get away with a lot of it before they
Well,
finally get caught.
Yeah, and part of that, like marrying her, was actually my own stupid fault.
I
It
feel
was
you.
100% because the reason I married her was we had actually only been dating for like 2 months when I proposed.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason I proposed is because they gave me orders to go to Turkey. And she could go with me if we were married.
Oh, so she could go accompanied if you
Yeah.
were married. Gotcha.
And so I was like, hell yeah, this is our chance. Like, you know, we can go have a blast, go to Turkey together. Let's go do that. And so we got married, and they canceled my orders. And I was like, oh, interesting.
See
Oh,
that one
here,
coming, huh?
here we are, and
orders.
we're married. We're married for 5 years, like, and that was mainly due to the fact that like I didn't believe in just getting a divorce.
Yeah.
Like there had to be an extenuating circumstance to get a divorce. I didn't care how much we fought, how much we hated each other, or whatever it may be. I wasn't gonna divorce her. And so it wasn't until I deployed and then found out like I wasn't even out of the States yet, and you're sleeping around. Like, come on, like seriously, you couldn't wait for at least a month? Like, give me a break. And yeah,
But it's crazy that they're gonna send you back over.
yeah,
it,
so they
because
wanted to
this is
send
a
me back
very
home.
Common thing too.
Yeah.
And this is just like, oh, your wife's cheating on, or no. What usually happens is that they're like, hey, come in. Hey, we need to talk to you. Hey,
Yeah,
man.
at least test out your mental, where you're at mentally,
Like,
or something.
hey, or they let them
And-
know in country, like, hey,
Yeah.
yo, your wife's cheating. No, it's usually
Yeah.
the woman that lets the dude know. Hey, I've been fucking around.
Yeah.
Watch this fucking video
Yeah.
of me
Dude, it
fucking
was-
this dude.
It was freaking,
Yeah.
it was nuts. So, because she played it off as the R word, which I called BS on right away because
R-word? Retarded?
the
Because that's what it sounds like.
it might as well be retarded, forced. We'll put it that way.
Oh, that one. Okay.
So I know YouTube
Gotcha,
doesn't like that
gotcha.
word, so I don't want to use it.
Gotcha.
But which I called BS on because when I left, I've always been a security conscious kind of guy, like physical security and everything else too. I left my freaking bayonet from my Mazda Gaunt on the freaking entertainment center. Like, she knew where it was. I told you, that's there. If somebody breaks in, you just freaking ram that through their throat.
It's been 20 minutes.
And I also left I had a 357, Ruger Blackhawk 357, and I left that with her too, just in case. I was like, hey, somebody breaks in, you freaking ram this 2 foot long bayonet down their throat, and you go get the 357, put one in them, just to make sure, like, you know. So there was a lot of it that I was kind of calling BS on, and also that this was her ex-boyfriend.
Oh.
And so I was like, all right, well, this is kind of funny. But she played it off so hard that I actually got a hold of my first sergeant and had the cops get involved, the SF on base.
So you bought her bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
That's what got law enforcement involved.
Yep. So I got them involved.
And so we go back to Afghanistan. Yeah. They're like, you need to go home. Give us your gun. Like, no, you don't get it, man.
Yeah.
Like, she's a cheating ass bitch.
Yeah. Then that's exactly why I was so mad, and I felt betrayed because I was like, wait, I'm not crazy. I'm not like. I'm literally calling BS on this whole entire thing. I know what it is. But if you do send me home, I will do something that's not going to be good.
Yeah. Which is
100%, that's
at least you knew in country so you could process it instead of like some dudes I know found out in country and then that becomes a liability.
Yeah.
Because then their entire mindset is based on that. Yeah. At least you were there. You're like, you already said it. You never had it better.
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck, dude. Life was simple.
And it was so stupid because I've always been very good at compartmentalizing feelings and issues and stuff, especially when it comes to work. I was a firefighter before I joined the military, and all that crap too that came along with that. I've always been really good at that, and so to me, it was like, okay. This squadron doesn't know me. They don't know me from Adam because I obviously I deployed here alone. They have no clue who I am. None of these guys have ever worked with me before. And so I'm like, all right, well, so they take my gun. Mm-hmm. And the only way for me to get it back is to go see the chaplain for 2 months.
Okay.
Every day.
In a combat zone.
And where we lived on the other side of the stinking airfield, and where the chaplain was almost like if you just drew a plus across the base, the whole entire base, like that. We lived down at the bottom. Chaplain was clear over here. Well, I got to go through the freaking market to get to him. So they actually had an Afghan market that they would open up and doing their prayers and everything else there too. They lived there basically. I got to walk through there. No rifle. Nothing really. I mean, I had a knife that my buddy had given me, but I'm like, okay, well, I'm a munitions guy. I'm not a hand-to-hand combat instructor. Like, yeah, I'm going to get messed up if somebody like actually wants to hurt me. But I mean, whatever. I'd walk that every single day. I had to go see him from 10 to 11 every day, so before work. So yeah, I went and talked with him, and I mean, just right out the gate, telling him, like, here's the problem, here's what happened, here's my mindset. No, I don't want to kill anybody. Like, I'm okay. Like, this sucks, but, like, tell me I'm not crazy, at least. And I mean, from the get-go, the chaplain was awesome. He 100%. I mean, after probably 2 or 3 sessions, it was literally like just going and BSing with a buddy. We didn't even talk about anything. He was just doing his time with me, so then I could get my rifle back. And so, it was still had to do 2 months. 2 months of the entire deployment, no weapon, nothing.
Were they worried that you're like suicidal or something?
I guess. Yeah. I mean, to their credit, there probably is a lot of people that wouldn't handle it well, and maybe they would do something stupid. And so I can't blame them for being cautious. I just wish it was something where it was like, okay, but do an actual evaluation of the person. Don't just do a cookie cutter approach to, well, this happens, everybody gets their gun taken away. If that happens to you, you get your gun taken away. Yeah, take it away at first. But don't make them wait 2 months in a war zone without a weapon. Like,
yeah, I would.
How many times we had people run the gate?
I would feel naked.
We always had somebody on base where they would shut the base down. They'd tell you everybody in the bunkers because somebody's on base plotting out coordinates for a rocket attack or a mortar attack or something like that. And here I am, the only stinking dingbat without a gun. Like, well, yeah, this is great. This is fantastic. I'm working with a bunch of other people that aren't combat ready people. Like, we're support people. Like, I would give me a gun. At least I know how to shoot. Like, and, yeah, it was a joke. That was a mess. But around that time, I'd been there maybe a month and a half, and walking that, I started noticing something up with my knee. Now I had injured my knee, both my knees and my feet, doing previous training, before I ended up a munitions guy. And, I just thought it was that. I had been told my whole entire Air Force career, anytime I'd go in, from doing runs or anything, I'm like, man, it feels like I'm getting freaking hit in the hammer with a knee, or hitting the knee with a hammer. Oh, you got tendonitis. Ice it, elevate it, take vitamin M, Motrin. 800 milligram Motrins are like freaking horse pills. You might as well stick that up your
those are
freaking
big
ass.
ones,
Like,
the 800s.
dude, I like, you gotta chew those bastards. You're not swallowing that. And ice it, elevate it, take vitamin M.
Change your
socks. And change your socks.
Drink water.
And you're obviously dehydrated. But I started having problems with my knee. Started swelling up real bad. 'Cause also, like, if you were going through a certain area, you had to have your vest. So we actually had our plate carriers. So if you were going through a certain area, you did have to have your plate carrier with you, or on you. Other areas like the boardwalk, stuff like that, you didn't have to have it. You could just go out in your sweats and, whatever PT gear that you brought. But yeah, I started having issues with it. It started swelling up real bad, and my knee probably got to the size of a cantaloupe, maybe even a watermelon. Like, I mean, it was freaking nasty. So I'm trying to figure that crap out, while trying to get my gun back, while trying to file for a divorce in a war zone. Like, it's like, oh my God. So I went to the doc for that. Same thing. You got tendonitis. Ice it, elevate it, vitamin M. I'm like, okay, it's not. Like, there's something up. And I thought I had torn my ACL, is like what I actually thought it was. And I mean, just the rest of the time, just pushing through with that, and getting to the point where I couldn't walk. It was just bad. Like, the experience itself, I loved being deployed. I thought it was great. I didn't care about rockets and shot at or mortars or any of this other crap. Like, okay. Like, where the bomb dump was, we had one single thing of cyclone fence around the entire bomb dump. And because it's the bomb dump, then they don't have it inside the actual base. It's on the outskirts. So you actually have to go out through the perimeter fence of the actual airfield and then into where the bomb dump is. I wasn't worried about any of that. We had farmers and crap working the fields all around us. They would pay the guys to go out and poke the ground with sticks looking for landmines. They'd be out there, you'd watch them. Landmines, because that whole entire river valley basically was mined by the Russians when they left. They just freaking dumped landmines on the entire area. I wasn't worried about any of that. I didn't care. Like, that stuff didn't bother me. I was like, yeah, well, if I get shot, I get shot. Like, I guess that's it, Like, I'm not scared of it. But, yeah, I mean, it was my knee. I couldn't freaking walk. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't work out. I mean, I worked out my upper body because that's all I could do. So the Marines that we shared the compound with at work, we built a gym with them. And so we had a bunch of exercise equipment in there, and the CBs from the Navy, they're kind of like the engineers, lent us some supplies so we could build it. So we built the gym, but I couldn't get over it. Like, my knee was just killing me. Around that time I started getting real sick too. Couldn't figure it out. Night sweats, like it was terrible. Same thing. Go to the doctor. I don't know how many freaking bottles of Motrin I went through. But it was just keep working. And so I did. That's, they did x-rays. Nothing came back. I'm like, okay, well, something's not right if I can freaking take my whole hand, press it into my leg, and literally bury my hand into the meat of my stinking leg because of the swelling. Like, there's obviously something freaking wrong. Don't you want to, I don't know, do some blood work or something? No. So the whole entire deployment was like that. After about, my month and a half mark, maybe 2 months in, the rest of my deployment was I could barely stand. I could barely walk. I could barely, take a step because it felt like somebody was mashing my stinking knee with a hammer. And, it sucked because, there's no support. There's, nobody really cares. All right, suck it up, Buttercup. Let's go. Like, okay, well, all right. And so, I just did my time. We built a lot of cool stuff. I loved working on. We did JDAMs, Joint Direct Air Munitions, or gosh, I can't even remember now. It's been so long. Air to ground munition.
The JDAMs are cool.
Yeah. So we did some of that. More 30 mil than you'd ever want to see in your entire life. It was a lot. And so the 30 mic, that has a lot of uses. There's, high explosive incendiary, high explosive armor piercing. There's depleted uranium. Mm-hmm. Worked with some of that. And so there were some things that were kind of leading up to me thinking like something's wrong. I'm sick. Not to mention everything was burnt in freaking burn barrels. Our munitions crates, that, white phosphorus and other crap that we had too. We'd burn those crates. Literally in the burn, we'd take the wood back with us from the bomb dump, put it in the freaking burn barrel, and that's what we'd burn at night. Burn that and go out and have a cigar. That was what we did. So I don't know what kind of chemicals and crap are coming off of that. I didn't think about it at the time. But that was basically my deployment. There's other stuff that kind of went on in there, but there's not really anything that really stands out as something worthy of talking about.
Maybe the landmine thing.
Oh yeah.
And while you're talking about that,
so the I was telling you about that before. On one of the days that I was having a really hard time with my knee, I got to the point where I couldn't stand, and I was trying to get to the chow hall, couldn't walk, and my chief actually offered me a ride instead, which is pretty rare. Senior NCOs kind of, tend to go do their own thing. And he offered me a ride, And that same day, we had just gone through, January to probably March, the entire base was flooded. Because Kandahar's a giant riverbed. When it rains there, during their rain season, it floods the entire base. Rivers running down the roads, basically. And one of the briefings they give you when you first get there is, hey, during the floods, stay away from any washouts because there's landmines. And the flood has been known, or the floods have been known to wash landmines out of the stinking hills, out of the berms. And that day that I couldn't walk, and my chief let me take a ride with him, was literally right after we had just had one of those massive rainstorms. And normally the path that I would take was kind of along the back perimeter fence to the chow hall. And I had heard that same day, thanks man, I had heard that same day landmine had washed out of that berm, and it was at the same exact time that I would have been walking that path, and a Marine got hit. He stepped on it. Don't know whatever happened to him. But yeah, just kind of crazy because it was a huge, for me too, like part of my faith and stuff like that, but it was a huge, like, oh crap. Like, looking back, part of me is like, shoot, I kind of wish I had stepped on the damn thing and blown my leg off, because then I wouldn't have had to worry about half the other crap I go through. But, that's the dark military sense of humor. But, yeah, so, dodged a bullet there. Kind of, I guess.
Well, you morbidly alluded to that, which is... Yeah. Had you had stepped on that and lost your leg, which ended up becoming cancerous, which you had to go through chemotherapy, long story short, getting back.
Yep.
So you got out of the Air Force.
Yeah.
And then
I came back from my deployment. Again, flying back solo, not coming home with anybody. Kind of always had that idea in my head of the YouTube videos you see of the soldiers coming back, even the one soldier getting off the plane, and there's his family, and everybody's there to greet them. There wasn't a damn person that showed up for me coming home. They did, not one person from my squadron. My buddy at the time, he was supposed to be picking me up. He knew when I was flying in. He wasn't there. I woke him up. Hey, where are you? What do you mean where am I? I'm in bed. I'm like, guess where I am? He's like, oh, you're at the airport, aren't you? Yeah, asshole. I'm at the airport, coming home from freaking war. I wouldn't mind somebody being here. Mm-hmm. And he asked me to take a taxi. I'm like, I'm not taking no fucking taxi. Get off your ass, come pick me up. I can't walk. I'm having a hard time. And I laugh about it so much because it's like, what in the hell is going on here?
Very unceremonious reception.
Yeah, and so I was a little pissed off and kind of heartbroken. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I got back and had to re-enlist because they extended me. To do my deployment. Mm-hmm. But to re-enlist, I had to do I had to do my PT test and another physical. And I'm like, I can't run. Well, what can you do? I'm like, I can't run. I'll do the push-ups. I'll do the sit-ups. I'll crush those. But I cannot run. Well, that's the only way you're going to stay in. All right, well, shit. So I tried. I couldn't do it. It was only a mile and a half. Mm-hmm. Mile and a half. And I could not finish it. Mm-hmm. My knee was that messed up. And at that point, I didn't know what was wrong with it still. Go back to the doctor, same thing. Tendinitis. okay. Like, again, I thought I tore my ACL. That's how bad it was. Was like, it hurt to do anything with my knee. And couldn't pass it. So they're like, all right, see ya. I'm like, well, fuck, all right, see ya. And that was basically it. I came back in August, and I was out of the military in September.
Damn.
So I came back from Afghanistan and was out of the military altogether in a month, probably less than a month. And just kind of like thrown to the wayside. Like there was no ceremony for me leaving. There was no plaque. There was nothing. Not a damn thing. 6.5 years. 5 of those was at my squadron there, on that base. Not a damn thing. Not one of them. Damn. And so, yeah, I got out, and I mean, I was hoping to get picked up on base because we had civilian munitions guys. So I was hoping.
They didn't even send you to like a wounded warrior battalion?
Oh, I got nothing. No. Like there was no. They didn't know what it was, anyways, and they didn't care. Like
they're just like, get the fuck out.
See
you're
ya.
being a bitch.
Like, yeah, there was no rehab. There was no attempt to offer me any type of rehab or something to try, because I had extended. I was already over my enlistment, and so to them, they're like, "All right, well, if you can't pass that, then you can't re-enlist. So see ya." And I'm like, "Well, all right, fuck." So yeah, I got out, and I basically, shit, that's why I say there's so much of it. Come home, ex-wife is still living in the house on base, because that's where we lived, was base housing. So I got to go kick her ass out and be like, hey,
how successful were you?
You can't live here anymore because I'm not in the military anymore. Like, I'm going and we're getting a divorce anyway, so you need to go freaking move back home with your folks or something. And I mean, I'm like,
how did that go?
Oh shit, that about as good as it sounds, I guess. Yeah, I basically, I told her, I was like, I got nothing. She spent my hazard pay. Everything that I had made from my deployment anyways was gone. She had racked up at least $30,000 in credit card debt.
That's so sweet of her.
And I mean, all of those were in my name. So it wasn't something that I could be like, well, that's yours. Good luck. Like, nope, couldn't do that. So I ended up with all of that. And, yeah, that was basically like, hey, well, I mean, at that point I had found out, obviously, she hadn't, OSI had gotten involved, gotten the truth out of her. We knew that she was just sleeping around and being a hot mess. Not really hot mess, but, yeah, I just kind of, she didn't have a choice. It was like, get out. Like, you got 2 days, pack your shit and go. Like, and so me being the kind of person I am, I actually moved her out. I used my truck and all of my equipment.
Kind of you.
I paid for the storage unit for 3 months worth of the storage unit. I packed all of it. I moved it all myself. Bad knee.
Injured knee.
Yep, bad knee and everything. And I was not living at home. I was living out of my truck. I was living with one of my buddies. I went and stayed with him for a while. So homeless, pretty much. And I wasn't even quite out of the military yet, and I was homeless already. Yeah. Got that taken care of, and then, I mean, they didn't waste no frickin' time, I'll tell you that. As soon as it was my last day, they're like, okay, give me your CAC card or your ID card. We need your security stuff, all that. And there's the gate. That's a little unceremonious. Like,
very unceremonious.
Kind of appreciate a little bit of like, hey, thank you for your service to your country. Like, give me a cheesy freaking speech of some kind. Like, I don't need much, but at least let me know you appreciated it, that I fucking signed on the dotted line.
Mm-hmm.
No, not a damn thing. There's the gate. Like, nobody from my squadron showed up to, hey, let's go grab a beer. No, nothing. It was, come back from Afghanistan, pack your shit, later. Like, all right. So I palled around, lived with a buddy there in Utah for probably about 6 months. No, it wasn't even that long. No, because it was January 3rd. So I was basically homeless for only a few months, couple months.
Mm-hmm.
But I was getting sicker and sicker and sicker, and I could not figure it out. And at this point now, I have no health care.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you do, somewhat. Not talking VA, but like TRICARE.
I know what you're
kind of
talking
carries
about.
on.
Yeah, the stupid little contingencies.
Yeah. And so, but it's like, okay, but I can't go see a doctor with that. Like, they've already freaking told me a million times that it's just tendonitis. So I'm like, oh, fuck, man, I don't know what's wrong. And I'm sick. I can barely walk. I can barely live. And I called my folks.
Mm-hmm.
Which is probably one of the hardest things I did.
Mm-hmm.
Was calling my folks and telling them, hey, I'm back from Afghanistan now. I'm out of the military, homeless, divorced, and dying. Like, you want to come pick me up? Like,
Mm-hmm.
would you mind? So, Dad actually didn't come pick me up. I drove home from Utah up here to Spokane. So about a 13-hour drive. Sicker than shit the whole entire way. Get home, pull into my folks' driveway, trying to get out of the truck. My dad comes up to me and he's like, oh, welcome home. And he stops and he's like, you look like death. I'm like, thanks, good to see you too. Like, and that next day he's like, no, we gotta take you into the hospital. I'm like, well, I mean, I don't know where I can go. I don't have health insurance. So like, well, we'll take you to the VA. So we drove to Spokane VA. And literally, we go into the ER. And they plop me down on a table. And they look at my leg. And they're like, ooh, that doesn't look good. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't feel good. And so they did some blood work. And literally came back like... They did blood work and an x-ray. And they came back like a half hour later. And they're like, well, you got a tumor in your leg. I'm like, a tumor? What do you mean? They're like, well, cancer. I'm like, oh, well, shit, you should have led with that part. And they're like, we need to try and figure out, what's going on. But for right now, the way that your bone is situated, if you step wrong, you're going to snap your freaking leg. Like, it's going to break. You're going to shatter your tibia. I'm like, oh, okay. So they put me on crutches. They're like, all right, so we're going to have you come back in 2 months for some more blood work, and then we'll figure out what kind of cancer this is. I'm like, 2 months? You just told me I have cancer. And you want me to wait 2 months before you can figure out even what kind of cancer it is?
Yeah, that's frightening.
I'm like, all right, well, shit. Like, okay. So, yeah, so I basically was on crutches for 2 months, like, trying to figure out what the hell is going on with my leg. I'm like, fuck, got cancer.
Like, you got cancer.
Like, oh.
Like, how does that feel?
Like, yeah, oh, all right, sweet. Like, so am I going to die? Like, at that point, too, like, I actually didn't care. I was like, fine, fuck it. I'm done. Like, I'm done. Like, all right, if it's my time, then let's go. Like, stop pussyfooting around. Take me off this mortal coil. Like, I'm ready to go. And 2 months goes by. Well, in that too, they started me on pain pills. So I got hooked on those real bad. They had me on Oxy for a little while, and then they switched it to Tramadol. So a little less brutal than like Vicodin or anything like that. But still very good. And so I finally get in there. They figure out what kind of cancer it is. The whole time I'm being told osteosarcoma. Osteosarcoma is cancer of your bone marrow. So the only way to get rid of that is they'd have to take my leg. And so I'm like, fine. Get the saws all out. Let's like freaking get this going then so I can move on. Like, and that's where I was telling you about the joke as far as my uncle told me he'd whittle me a peg leg that was hollowed out. I could put a flask in it and everything. I was like, hell yeah, I'm good with that. My mom didn't think that was funny, but I'm like, take it. Like, get rid of the damn thing. I'd much rather chop it off now than find out that it's spread somewhere else. And go back in, and they're like, it's lymphoma. I'm like, well, isn't that bad? They're like, yeah, it can be real bad, especially for how long you've had it. We need to check the rest of your lymphatic system and make sure it's not spreading through your marrow to your lymphatic system. And so it was diffuse large B-cell lymphoma. So I actually lucked out because it's actually one of the more easily treatable cancers. But because it had gone so long without being treated, they actually wanted to do a more aggressive chemo on me. So I did, it's called R-CHOP. I don't remember what drug each letter is. I know Robaxin is the R, I'm pretty sure. And that is the one that degrades the lining of your veins and your arteries. And they basically told me, hey, this better work the first time because you're never going to get to do this chemo again because it will kill you. I'm like, oh, well, shit, yeah, you better get it right the first time then. Like, let's freaking make sure you pump me full of that shit so then I'm not, having to go through this ever again. And, yeah, so, I mean, it was another 2 to 3 months before I started chemo. And, yeah, wanted to die the whole time. I mean, my leg hurt so friggin' bad. And now knowing what it is, yeah, I'm done. Like, I don't want it anymore. Like, I don't care to do chemo, any of that stuff. I was like, just let me go. Like, I'm done. And it was my faith. Like is about the only thing that kept me kind of going. Was
easier to amputate a limb than to go through chemo.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Damn.
I would have much rather, like, if I could have chopped it off myself, if I had the wherewithal to do it myself, I would have done it. Hell yeah.
But you suffered.
Yeah, so I just stuck it out.
How long?
Did the chemo. Chemo was 6 months. So I did chemo for 6 months, which is basically 1 round every week. Lost all my hair. It was pretty crazy how that happened. Because I had actually let my hair kind of grow after I got out. I didn't go get a haircut or anything else.
Well, you still got gray hair.
My hair was, it's a different color now. This is a completely different color.
Well, you still got good hair.
Yeah, it came back
you're
full.
Not bald or anything, so
it came back full
going for you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, lost everything. I mean, I was sicker than shit. The only reason, the only reason that I'm alive was because I was in such good shape. That's what they told me. The only reason you're even alive right now is because you're in good shape. Like, you've taken care of yourself. I'm like, okay, well, that's something, at least. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, so I did six months of chemo, and then did another 2 months of radiation, which they actually fly you over to Seattle to do.
But you didn't talk about the biopsy of the bone marrow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, so during that, when they're trying to figure out what it is, they drilled into my leg at least 3 times, like to take core samples of the cancer, I guess. I'm like, hey, while you're in there, could you just dig the damn thing out? Like, just get a spoon. There we go. Done. It doesn't work that way. So yeah, they drilled through my leg a couple times, which cut one of the nerves that runs down my shin. So now, like, if I touch my shin in a certain way, I get freaking knives in my feet. Like, so it's kind of weird.
So no Muay Thai for you.
Yeah, not going to be kicking trees or anything like that anytime soon. But yeah, then so I went and did the radiation. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, getting back to the biopsy is when they did the bone marrow biopsy, which is by far the single most painful thing I've ever experienced in my life. I thought my knee was bad. Getting your hips drilled into with a hand drill.
While you're
that's
conscious.
Fucking pain.
I can't believe
while you're conscious. Yeah. All they do is a local anesthetic to you. Now, I don't know. Maybe I got the asshole doctor that day, but it was also a teaching. Like they brought in
the VA
their students to watch how it's done. And it's a bunch of freaking hot-ass nurses. And I'm like, here I am with my ass in the air. And I'm like, well, not in the air, but like I'm laying down, my ass is exposed because they got to get to my hip bones, the back of my hip bones. I'm like, oh, come on. Seriously? How degrading can this get? And I'm like, hey, how painful is this going to be? Oh, it's not that bad. We do it to old people all the time, and they don't ever complain.
You were the guinea pig. Like, we're going to teach you guys the old-fashioned way.
Shit.
On this hardcore guy.
And that asshole, yeah, they freaking numb me up, numb the skin, and then literally pulls out an old-school hand core drill and just starts cranking. And I'm doing everything in my power not to, like, because there's a bunch of ladies. Like, I don't want to swear, and I don't want to, like,
that's probably
start crying.
Why he did it. You probably used them as like silence.
Oh my god, it was horrible. And I mean, he got halfway through the one side, and I was bawling my eyes out and crying like, "You son of a bitch! You better get this done now." And at the end, it doesn't just pop out, right? They don't just drill in and then pull it out, and it's all good. It's got a ram handle on it, and they have to pull it to break it loose, break the sample loose. And so he starts freaking reefing on this thing to break off the core sample of my bone and my marrow. And I'm dying. Like, I wish I could pass out from pain. I've never passed out from pain. I wish I could have. Because at least then I wouldn't have felt it. Like, it was excruciating. It took the breath from my lungs. Like, I couldn't breathe. It hurt so bad. And they did the other side. I'm like, fuck me, man. Like,
what did that do to those nurses?
Oh,
I would think it would be like, hey, we're gonna watch someone get fucking
in
tortured today in some crazy medieval fucking way.
Christ.
You would think they'd have better fucking methods to
oh yeah,
get a bone sample.
You would think so, because there are better methods. There are 100% better. You could have just knocked me out. Just knock me out.
That seems
literally
like it would
all you had to do.
Like need anesthesia.
Oh yeah,
anesthesia.
It should have been.
Anything bone related is really horrible pain.
I mean, for about a year then, I had holes in the back of my hips from where they drilled into it. Oh, here's the next fun one. I go to fucking do my my radiation. And when you go in there, they do an air cast of you. Of what limb it is, because they need it to hold still. They need whatever limb that they're going to be doing radiation on. They put you in an air cast to hold that limb still while they shoot radiation at it.
So an air cast is like an inflatable thing?
Yeah. Basically, it's like
like airbags?
Yeah, it's like a beanbag, and then they just suck all the air out of it.
Gotcha.
And I go in there. They fly me over to Seattle for that. And I go in there, I meet with the nurses, and I get this crusty old nurse who smells of beer and cigarettes. Like, so I'm like, hey, we're going to get along just fine, you and me. And she does my cast. And she's like, all right, we'll have you come back tomorrow and we'll actually get everything situated. And I go in the next day and I got a different nurse. And she's like, okay, are you ready for your tattoos? My tattoos? What the hell are you talking about? She's like, you're going to get tattoos today. And I was like, okay, all right, sweet. Can we just get on with this? She's like, no, you're getting tattoos today. I'm like, okay. They have to tattoo around the site so they can line up the laser or their thing to do the radiation. I'm like, oh, well, sweet. All right, whatever. Cool. Let's, And so she has me get up on the table. She puts this thing under my hips and she pulls up my shirt and kind of down my skivvies a little bit. She goes through and she's like, yep, I'm just getting this all lined up so that way we can make sure that we line up all the dots and everything else. And she comes over. I get one on my right hip. I get one right above my freaking junk. And then I get another one on my left hip. Little black dot. I'm not thinking much of it because I'm thinking like maybe they got to line up on my hips to get to my leg. Like I don't really understand. And as she's done and she's like looking for my air cast because they saved the cast from the day before, so then they can just come back and just throw it on you. She's like, well, that's weird. Where's your air? It should be in one of these because it's for you've got prostate cancer, right? I'm like, no, I don't have prostate cancer. I've got cancer in my leg. She's like, well, I'll be right back. I never saw her again. So they just came in and just freaking tattooed the shit out of me and thought that she was going to zap my freaking butthole, like, or my prostate. Like she thought I had prostate cancer. So she didn't even read my records to know that it was cancer in my leg. Oh God. So, all right.
Do you have tattoos on your body?
I do. Yeah. I've got one on each hip and then one right on my...
It's weird that they even have to use a tattoo gun. Like, why can't they just
It was a needle. It was a needle. Well, I mean, not a Sharpie. But no, they're actually legit tattoos for it. Because I was joking with her about that too. I was like, well, I've already got one. She's like, well, we're going to give you 3 more today. I'm like, all right, sweet, whatever.
It's kind of
not
a funny
thinking,
fucking
like,
story. But
dude,
luckily you caught it before you
well, I'm glad that I freaking said something. I was like, Jesus Christ, you're going to zap my nuts. Yeah, I was like, wow, I'm real glad that I freaking said something. And so I get done with that. And so then I started radiation. Radiation was a joke. I didn't have any problem with it.
So
my
did you
skin
ask
got
anybody like, so you guys
sensitive.
tattooed my hips? What's going on?
Oh, I asked, and they all just kind of laughed. I was like, I guess just one more for Luke, huh? Just one more Uncle Sam's giant green dick. Here you go. Like, I mean, it's literally what it feels like. It's just getting screwed over and over again. And yeah, so I did my radiation. Radiation wasn't anything. I didn't get radiated. I didn't get sick or anything from that. I mean, my skin was prickly for a while. It was real, like, I could not touch the skin on my leg. Just freaking, like, really weird. Finished it up, and then I get back to Spokane, and I'm waiting to hear from my doc. I probably waited about a month after I got done with radiation. Didn't hear from my doctor. My oncologist, my actual cancer doc. What the hell is going on? Call the VA. Oh yeah, we no longer have an oncology department. What? Yeah, you don't have a doctor. Like, there is no oncology. They no longer do cancer-related work here. Your doctor's gone. Okay. So who do I need to talk to then? Like, because I need an oncologist. Just because I went through chemo and just because I went through radiation doesn't mean I'm cancer-free right now. It just means I'm in what they call remission, which just means the cancer's not growing.
But you need a damn doctor.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Well, we don't know what to do, and honestly, we don't have your records.
Oh.
Oh, well, that sounds good. That sounds about par for the course at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I found out I was like their last patient at the oncology department there in Spokane. I don't know if they have one again now, but I basically. Oh, that's all. Yeah, that was the other thing. I was trying to get life insurance last year, and I can't get life insurance because I didn't do my full remission set. When you're in remission every 4 to 6 months, you're supposed to go get what's called a PET scan, where they scan your whole entire body, and then they do blood work. And I think I'd done on my own through basically telling the VA, hey, I don't want to die like forgotten over here, that you guys, like, thanks for doing all this and getting me through chemo and radiation and all that, but now I don't want to just have gone through hell just to die, so you better find me a freaking doc or find me somebody that I can go see. And they finally sent me to go have my PET scan done and get my blood work done. So I think, but even that was like pulling teeth to get done. I did 4, so 2 years worth of scans. You're supposed to do 6 years, and because I didn't do 6 years, I can't get life insurance. So it's kind of bullshit now that I'm married and I've got 2 kids. Like, I can't get life insurance because the VA decided they don't want to have an oncology department, and I don't have a doctor, and I'm still trying to work. I'm still trying to support myself, like build my life back together. Like, I don't have anything. I don't have time to go dick around chasing doctors. And yeah, I mean, during that whole time is when I was doing odd jobs for some of the firefighters around Newman Lake, because my dad was the fire chief out in Newman Lake. So I became a volunteer on the department as soon as I came back, or as soon as I moved home, basically.
That's a lot of energy.
And yeah, I mean, it was. I loved firefighting. That's what I did before I joined the military as a volunteer. I was a fire explorer. All through high school. Loved it. I loved every aspect, whether it was doing paperwork, whether it was directing traffic, whether it was actually suiting, throwing my bunker gear and actually going to a fire. Like, I loved every part of the fire service. And so when I moved back home, obviously, that was the first thing that I did, is become a volunteer on my dad's department. And sick, going through chemo, everything else. And I got my fire academy lined up, and it was directly after I had that biopsy in my hips was when I was due to start fire academy. So I'd just gotten through chemo. Did I just get through chemo at that point? I think I was just finishing up chemo. Bald, like, looked like death. Yeah, started fire academy. District 9's fire academy here in Spokane. It's pretty intense. Trying to become a firefighter, right? So they're going to push you. But it wasn't anything new to me. I'd already been through, like, North Bend's fire academy over by Seattle. Back when I was in high school, I went through that one. And so I knew what to expect going into it. You did have to be in shape, obviously, which I was in shape, but very, very tired and sick and frail. So it made for an interesting time. And so yeah, I went through fire academy. Went through that, and then I went to wildland school directly after that. So I got my red card for wildland firefighting. And then directly after that, I started EMT school. Got my national EMT and my state EMT out of that. And then while that whole time, ever since I got home, I'd actually been going to school online. So I about that time too, I also got my degree in fire science, just my associates. But I got my degree in fire science because my plan was like, all right, as soon as I'm done with this, as soon as I'm like healed or I'm better, I'm going to be a firefighter.
And October's Fire Safety Month.
Oh, yeah, it is, isn't it? Or is it cyber? Well, they pick this month for everything because it's also cybersecurity month too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I don't know. But so I went and I did all that. Finished up, started getting myself in shape again, and then, started trying to get on a department. And I tested a couple different places and wasn't getting picked up. And I'm not dumb, so I knew that I was testing pretty well. Mm-hmm. I couldn't figure it out. And I went and I had talked to, I can't remember his name, but I had talked to an assistant chief at one of the districts. I was telling him, I was like, what's going on? Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, because I'm also trying to do this the right way. I didn't want to use my dad, who was a fire chief, like very well-known fire chief, one of the longest acting ones in Spokane County. Wasn't going to rely on my name or my dad to get me on a department. And I was basically told, well, firefighting has one of the highest rates for cancer across pretty much any career field.
Yeah.
And you already have cancer. So you're a liability. You're not going to get picked up. I'm like, well, okay. What is that? So you telling me that I wasted my time going to fire academy, EMT school, wildland school, doing ice rescue, doing all this other stuff for it, learning all of these skills to do it, getting my degree in it. Yeah, you wasted it. You'll be a badass volunteer. And I was a volunteer on Newman Lake for right up until I met my wife now. And
Dad couldn't hook you up?
No.
It makes sense.
He's also very big on that too. Like he was always like, there was no nepotism with my dad.
Yeah.
I worked harder than anybody else, and he made sure that everybody knew. Like, I mean, it was rough. It was like, no, I'm gonna have it twice as hard as anybody else. When it came to my dad. So yeah, Dad was not gonna hook me up. And so yeah, I was kind of like, well, shit. What do I do? And I mean, firefighting was my love. It was my passion. It's what I wanted to be before I ever joined the military. It's what I wanted to do in the military even.
I always thought crash fire rescue was a sexy job.
Oh man, that would have been freaking badass. I would have loved doing that. But yeah, I had that whole story too. Cause so going back to military, where I ended up screwing up my body when I went into the Air Force. I was trying to go combat control before I went to basic. So I tested for combat control. I failed it on the run. Because I failed it on the run, my recruiter had to put me in open general. I get to basic training. They tell me I'm going to be an in-flight refueler. And then the special operations guys come around. And they start asking, who wants to be a badass? Fuck yeah, I want to be a badass. Like, that's what I was trying to do to begin with. All right. So I go test. And I made it. I was like, hell yeah. So I got accepted to TACP, which is a Tactical Air Control Party. Some branch, JTACs, Joint Tactical Air Control.
David Goggins was in TACP.
Yeah, yep. Mike. Gosh dang it. Grand Thumb. I can't remember his last name. Mike. Oh my gosh. That's going to drive me crazy. He has a channel, Grand Thumb. He's a gun tuber. But he was TACP also. And yeah, but that's where, so I went to TACP, and at that point the schoolhouse for TACP was in Florida. It was at Hurlburt Field in Florida. And I was there for a year. Basically just trying to get through the school. TACP didn't have a pipeline at that point, so you didn't go through some weird selection. The whole entire school was selection. So you're learning how to run radios, you're learning how to do nav and everything else that comes along with that, all while you're there. And then if you pass that school, then they send you off to actually get qualified for CAS, close air support. I was there for a year and just beating the hell out of myself. Because, I mean, it's every single day. Every single day. You're just getting your dick pushed in the dirt. And at that point, I don't think they had an idea of how they were actually doing the school. It was literally just, let's murder these kids as they come out of basic training, and whichever ones make it is who's going to be a TACP. Which is fine, because you do, we had a saying, the weak shall fall, the strong shall stand, the weak will fall by the wayside, is what we called it. And they'll find every weakness about you. For me, it was my body. My mind and my heart, hell yeah, I was in it. And I wanted that so bad. But my hips, my knees, and my feet, they didn't want it. So I broke both my feet. I did blow out both my knees. And I also hurt my hips and my back while I was there. And that caused me to wash out. And after a year of being there too, which sucked because that set me all the way back to the new tech school I was going to. Well, that was full of people that were coming straight from basic. I'd already been in a year. And I'm put in phase 1 with them, which phase 1 just means you are never outside of your room, outside of uniform. You cannot leave the base at all. You can't do anything. And I was already used to it after being a year in TACP, where I could go down to Destin or go down to Crab Island out there in the Gulf and go party, go have a good time, get shit-faced on the beach. So I had all this freedom that I was used to from TACP, and I get there and freaking, oh God, I gotta be prim and proper all over again. It's right back to being in basic training almost. And but the shitty part was when I left TACP, I had all of my training and my certifications from being a firefighter before, when I was a fire explorer. I had all of that sent to my commander because he actually wanted me to stay there, get better, and then join team again and go back through the course. And I told him I can't. I'm too beat up. I'm a year into this. If I stay, it's going to be another 2-3 years before I'm actually in a unit. I don't want to spend 2-3 years in technical training, getting my ass kicked every single day. No, I'm not doing that. So I asked to be reclassed out of TACP. Had all my certs sent. And it was me and one other guy getting ready to reclass. And I'm like, I want fire protection. And he wanted ammo or munitions. He got fire protection. I got munitions. I was like, God damn it. All right, well. So that whole shit show. But because of all the things that I'd done and torn myself up so much, it made it to where firefighting just, I mean, and then the cancer and everything else, it just was not going to, I'm not going to be a firefighter. Can't do it. So then I kind of did whatever I could find. I worked, I was postal carrier for about a year and a half, rural carrier. I loved that. People left me alone. I did rural routes, so it wasn't like I had to actually go talk to anybody. And then it came down to I was a kind of a partial driver. I wasn't full time, but a full time position was opening, and I wanted it. And they gave it to one of the other carrier's nieces, who wasn't even a carrier. And they gave her the full-time position. And I'm like, all right, well, you're just like the fucking military then at this point. Like, I'm used to this ride. I'm getting off now while I can. And so I left the postal service. And then I went and I worked for a fitness company. As their warehouse manager. I set them up, got everything. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I always forget. My first job out of the military, staff sergeant. I got out as an E5. The only place that would hire me was Taco Bell. That was my first job after doing all that shit. Being in charge of millions of dollars worth of equipment, running an entire crew worth of guys, you know, when I was stateside anyways, I ran an entire bay. To the only place that will hire me. Like, I applied to Honeywell out here, because a lot of munitions and stuff like that, testing equipment are Honeywell. It's Honeywell equipment. When couldn't get hired. Only place that responded to me was Taco Bell. So my first job out of the Air Force after serving and going over to Afghanistan, doing all this crazy shit. Oh, you're only qualified to fucking make a burrito. Like, all right. So I did that. That was before I worked at the post office. And then from the post office, then I did the warehouse manager. And that's where I actually met my wife now. Not at the fitness center, but during that time. And, yeah, I mean, they had no warehouse, no, like, accountability whatsoever. Nothing was set up. So I got them set up with a whole entire inventory system. I mean, part of the thing with munitions is accountability. So I was huge on how things need to be laid out in a warehouse, where everything needs to have a number of where it's at, so you can just know exactly, okay, it's on shelf A in the second position, right? So 2A, go find it on 2A and you'll find what you're looking for. I set up everything. And then so I worked there for about a year while we were dating. My wife and I were dating. And then we decided to get married. And so we get married, and I take 2 weeks off. Or no, I only took a week off for our wedding. And I had built up pallets. So as the warehouse manager, I was in charge of 5 different stores. So there was one here in Spokane, one in Coeur d'Alene, one in Tri-Cities, one in Yakima. Oh, and one on the South Hill. And so each one of those I drove to on a weekly basis to restock their shelves with whatever stuff that they were running low on, protein bars, protein, whatever, other crap. And so before I left, I knew that they had a problem with people not being able to just know what they needed or you know, coming and just grabbing whatever they wanted. There's a big accountability issue. So I went and I made a pallet for each store that would last them for the week of the stuff that they would need. just based off of, I worked there for a year. I'd built up a system. I knew the averages. I knew like, okay, trending, here's this, okay, that's what they're going to need. So I built up a pallet for each one of the stores. And I go get married, and I come back a week later, and it's just a disaster. None of the pallets that I put together were touched. They tore everything off of the shelves. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Then I get called into the office and fired. We want your keys. What do you mean you want my keys? I just came back. Like, what happened here? Well, you haven't been doing your job, and you know why. I know why. Excuse me? Yeah, I know why, because I just got fucking married, and I've been gone for a week. Like, you guys knew this. Give us your keys. We don't want to hear it. Huh? All right. Toss them my keys. I'm like, peace out. So now I'm newly married, and I don't have a job. So I'm like, shit. Can't catch a break. And I just happened, so I moved in with my wife. She had actually bought a house. She's probably one of the smartest people I've ever known in my life. She bought a house 2008, I want to say she bought it, when everything crashed and everything was worth nothing. And she bought this house for dirt cheap. And yeah, so I moved in with her and the old couple across the street. They're amazing. Their son was a manager at a rental store here in Spokane. And so they're like, hey, we'll let them know you're looking. I was like, that'd be great. I was hired a week later, working for the rental company. I was like, shit, all right, well, this is perfect. Like, that worked out really good. And so then I worked there for 3 years. I learned everything I possibly could about the industry, trying to build another passion in trench safety and confined spaces. I loved it. I loved teaching it. Because it's a huge, like, you got to get certified to even do that work.
Some serious OSHA stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Trench safety, man. You have to have those barriers in there.
Yep.
They'll shut you down.
Trench boxes, shoring, all that stuff. And I became an expert on it. Like, I knew the regulations. I knew the different types of soil, and I knew how to test and all that stuff. But I wanted to, like, I was making $17.50 an hour. Well, that's not enough to take care of my family on, you know. And so I went to them after 3 years. They wanted me to start teaching classes, which meant I was also going to have to travel around the Northwest to teach classes to different companies so they could stay certified. Okay, but I want to be paid. Oh, we thought you just wanted to do this. Well, I do just want to do this, but like, I'm also not just free hands. And so I asked for a raise and got a 25-cent raise after 3 years. And I'm like, well, fuck. So I had a buddy who was a finance manager at a car dealership. So I called him up. I was like, hey, could I take care of my family making money selling cars? Could I actually do it?
You certainly can.
And he's like, yeah, man. You want to come work here? I was like, I think so. So I actually talked with my wife, and we prayed about it and kind of went over it. And I was like, yeah, I'm doing this. So I went to my boss and I told him, I was like, I'm leaving. I'm going to go sell cars. He's like, you're going to go sell cars. I'm like, I'm going to go sell cars. He's like, you don't want to go sell cars. I'm like, I don't want to go sell cars, but I have to go sell cars because that's the only way I'm going to take care of my family. Mm-hmm. And I loved my boss. Like, I still do. I think he's a great guy, and it had nothing to do with him personally. It's because the company I worked for was a publicly traded company. Mm. So raises didn't get decided by my boss or by even his boss. It went to shareholders and all that other crap. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, so I left there. I went and started selling cars. And I found out real quick I am the odd man out. Like, I am not the same personality as what's required to sell cars. I picked up on it really quick, and I built a pretty loyal base for myself, to where worked there for 3 years. So kind of a cycle, I guess. I was one of the top salesmen there. I can't say that I was the top because there was only one other guy that, I mean, the dude was born with a silver tongue. He was born with the innate ability to just BS someone until they buy a car. Mm-hmm. And my best month, he sold 31 cars. I sold 29 and a half in 1 month, which is insane. Most dealerships, most salesmen you're going to run into maybe sell maybe 10 in a month, and that's a good number. Like, that is a good number. That's a good if you can sell 10 in a month. Yeah. Holy shit! And I was consistently selling between. Consistently, my averages were between 15 and 22-ish was my, like, that's where I stayed between. And that month, though, we had a freaking killer month. And I sold, 29 and a half. You get the half because I split a deal with one of my other coworkers. But about that time was COVID. Mm-hmm. So COVID hit. It shut everything down. And I came back from, once they reopened everything back up, I came back. And the day that I came back, the dealership got hit with ransomware. And that was kind of my introduction, I guess, of like an interest to cybersecurity. Yeah, I'll wait until you're ready.
Yeah, we're ready. Cybersecurity.
Yeah, so getting back to that. So, came back from COVID. First day. At least the first week. I don't know if it was the first day. Here, let me fix that. There we go. Is that still good? Our dealership gets hit with ransomware. And it was as simple as it sounds. Like for those that are a part of that industry or that understand it, like how a phishing campaign happens. It was that. Just an email. Blasted out to all of our email addresses, which are all public information because that's how you get in touch with people at a dealership. You email them or you call them or whatever. But and one of the managers opened it. And it asked him to log in. And so he did. And every single computer in the network, every phone system, everything was completely locked down. And I was just kind of blown away because obviously, I mean, we all hear about it and you might watch a story here or there. I'm like, what is going on? Are you serious? Like, that's all it took for me to freaking... I could have done that then and probably had a month off more. But joking. Dark military humor. And I was like, oh, man, that's kind of crazy. I was talking to the network guy. Old, crusty dude. Like, so what's going on? He's like, I don't know, but I'm fired. Shit, all right. Like, okay, I guess I'll see you. And the whole time they're trying to do forensics on the network to try and figure out what's going on. How can they get it back without paying the ransom? Can they do this? Can they do that? So they actually pulled, there's one of the mechanics at the dealership had background in computers, and they pulled him in, took him out of that, gave him a new job new title, new pay. And I hired him to do the forensics and start the new SOC, or Security Operations Center kind of stuff. Along with one of the other salesmen. He also got to join it. I was like, shit, man. I heard how much they're making. I was like, they're paying you that much? Like, nothing's even set up. And you guys have no experience. Sure, you took a computer class in college, but you don't have any training, anything else? No. Okay. Shit, maybe I need to start looking at that. Like, that makes a lot of money. And, like, I'm tired of selling cars. I worked there for 3 years. The drama, the backstabbing, the, like, just absolute shark mentality of it all. Now, I got good at it after 3 years of being there, but I hated it. I mean, you're working 7 days a week. It didn't matter. Like,
I would only do 6
holy
months
crap,
at
man.
the most at a car dealership.
Yeah.
God bless you.
It was, I mean, I had a family to take care of. So, of course, I didn't have a choice. I had to make money.
Yeah.
Then it had to be more than 60 or 70 grand a year. Like, I needed to make money. Mm-hmm. And so I was making consistently over 100 grand a year. But I saw that, and I was like, holy shit. Now, I had always had, like, an interest in hacking, I guess, if you call it that. I was dumb. I was tech illiterate, though. I got really big into the Cicada 3301 movement stuff that happened, some people think it was NSA, some people think it was CIA, some people think, whatever mysterious organization across the world was looking for top hackers and all this and that. And I was very intrigued by that. That was back in 2005, 2006 when that was going on. So I was in TAC P when that was all going on, but I got very interested in that. Steganography, the hiding of information in an image. Learned that from there. And so I'd always had this, like, intrigue, but I thought I was too stupid. Like, I don't know computers. I can learn something given enough time, but I just didn't think I had that in me. And so when this happened, I was really interested. I wanted to know more. How'd they do it? How'd they get in? What'd they use? How do you even do that? So I started looking at that, and I started asking the guys that were the new information security guys, and learning, like, they're going to make this kind of money with no experience at all. I'm like, oh, shit, dude, that sounds a whole hell of a lot better than working 7 days a week, freaking, beating my ass into the ground. I'm never home with my family. I'm always pissed off, which, I'm always pissed off anyways, because I do have issues that I ended up with out of the military, obviously. But working car sales really brings that out. Like, you'll see a lot more darker sides of yourself working that kind of job. And so I needed out. And so I started doing research online, and I found a school that accepted the GI Bill. Boot camp is what they call it. It's an academy. I found it's called Evolve Security Academy. I recommend anybody that's looking to even dabble or learn a little bit more. They actually have a free intro course. And it's not your stereotypical, oh, here's this, and this is the kind of information, and everybody, don't recycle your passwords. Make sure that you use two-factor multi-authentication, and like all. It's not that. It's like a true legit, hey, we're going to use a Linux system. You're going to use it to run this program. We're going to use that then to, okay, we're going to run Wireshark and go over packet captures and stuff like that. Like, that's their intro course, and it's free. All you have to do is send your email to them so they can try and pitch you a school. And you can take that course. And it's a legit, like, probably 2-month course. as an intro course for free that you can do. So I found them, and they accepted the GI Bill. And now I'd already used it for my degree in fire science and for a couple other my certifications for firefighting. And so I was like, shit, do I have enough? Will it pay for it? And the school worked with me, and we made it work. And so, I mean, I signed up for their Security Plus certification boot camp. And that was a 9-month? No, it couldn't have been 9 months. Shoot, I can't remember how long the course was. But it was long. It was very long. And I got accepted to it. Because you actually have to, like, apply. They don't just take whoever has the money, or if you got GI Bill, okay, yeah, sure. You actually have to apply. So you have to test to get accepted and everything else. So I got accepted, and I'm still at the dealership, and I'm like, oh. I get the email, and I'm in the middle of a car deal, and I'm like, I got accepted. I don't have to do this shit anymore. So I'd been saving up for at least a year and a half, to the point where I could take an entire year off and not have to work. My wife didn't have to work. All of our bills would be paid plus some. Like, I'd saved up enough that, and it was strictly for that purpose. So it wasn't just our savings. It was like an actual fund I had set up on the side to be able to take an entire year off of work. And that's exactly what I did. Got up right there, went into the office, told my sales manager, I got accepted. This is my 2 weeks. I'm done. And of course, same thing that happened to me when I worked at the rental place. You're going to do what? No, that's not going to work. You're not going to be able to do that. What do you mean? Like, okay, good luck. And I'm like, no, I'm going to do this. And I mean, part of the reason they were laughing, and I get it, I totally get it, was I was the old guy. I was the guy who showed up in a flannel shirt. Like, I look like Al from freaking Home Improvement. Like, I wore my flannel shirt, you know. I wore my cowboy boots to work every day. I polished those. If there's one skill I learned from the military is how to polish boots, because I came in when it was BDUs were still a thing. BDUs and black boots. So I knew how to shine boots really well. And so I wore my cowboy boots all nice and shiny, but I was the old guy of the dealership. I didn't know how to use the computers. I hated running the stupid CRM or customer whatever thing manager program it is, customer retention manager. I don't even know what it is. What CRM even stands for. Testament to why they all thought I was like retarded for thinking that I was going to go work in cybersecurity. I can't even run the CRM. I can barely run the computers. What do you really think you're going to go do that? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to try, because I'm sure as hell not staying here. Like, if there's one thing I've learned from my entire life is don't ever stop just because it doesn't look like something that you can do, or doesn't sound like it's something that you can do, whether it's physically, mentally, or anything. Like, if you're interested in it, go for it. Do it. There's nothing stopping you. You are the only thing stopping you from trying. Nobody, who cares if they laugh at you? Who cares if they make fun of you? Who cares? Yeah, it's going to be scary. Everything in this life is scary. From the time you leave home for the first time as a kid, it's scary. The first time your parents let you ride your bike outside without them, that was scary. So this whole entire life is scary. Go do it. Who cares? Go do it anyways. Try it. Just try. And so, yeah. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going balls deep on this. And so I jumped in. And I found a new passion. in doing so. My passion was firefighting. I loved firefighting. Everything about it, like I said. I can't do that. So I had to replace it with a new passion. Cybersecurity has 100% taken that. I love every bit about it. I would love to do red team. That's what I'd really love to do. Social engineering. I'd love to do that kind of crap. Network testing. Yeah. Web app testing. Yeah. Love it. Blue teaming. Yeah. I freaking love it. I love catching things and saying, hey, this doesn't look normal. Finding that odd little piece out of, the needle in a haystack, Yeah. I freaking love that. Let's do that. Getting into the management side, I would love to do that too. I would love to actually encourage and teach up the next generation. I would love to do that. Because a lot of that too I don't even have to have industry experience. I just need to be a good leader. I just need to encourage my people, which, that goes right back to the military and everything we learned in there. So I went through that school, and it was, I took a year off from work, which was crazy. My wife hated it, I think, because now I went from being gone 7 days a week to now I'm home 7 days a week, and I'm grumpy as all hell and drinking like a fish. And yeah, I'm pretty sure she wasn't happy with me. And so I took that time off and applied myself to doing that school. And it was the best thing I could have ever done. I loved every second of it. I want to go back and do it again. That's not how much I loved it. It was hard. But yeah, not one part of it that I regret in any way with that, or the money. The GI Bill covered it, obviously, but the money that it took for me to be able to take that time off to do it was a lot of money. The school itself is $14,000 to do the Sec Plus. But the money that it took for me to take the time off to do it was a lot more than that. Now I could have continued to work. Not doing car sales though. Not a chance in hell could I have done car sales and that at the same time. So I would have had to go back to something else. So I kind of took it as my break. Hell yeah, I'm going to stay home. I'm going to build a freaking playhouse for my kids and go to school. So that's what I did. And in the school, you go through everything. Not just what Sec Plus is, but you go through everything. You're learning GRC. You're learning how to run a full-on phishing campaign.
GRC?
Government Risk and Compliance. So it's what basically dictates how a company handles situations, what should actually be done. Some of it has to do with
pay the ransomware, which you didn't get to.
Yeah, I didn't get to that part mainly because I don't have the permissions to talk about that, and that's why I didn't mention the dealership that I worked for. So
don't pay the rent. Bottom line is the dealership you work for, the hypothetical dealership, freaking paid the damn ransomware. And it's what's the point of being?
Don't pay the terrorist. So
no. Okay, so what should you do in that situation? If you
honestly call the FBI.
Just call the FBI.
Call the FBI. Get them involved from the start. Stop trying to save face. Stop trying to prevent it from being a media this and that. Call the FBI. Get them involved. Get the forensics going. Because the longer you wait, the more locked down that shit becomes. And the more they're going to I can never say the word obfuscate or hide their shit that they're doing. right? So they put files on your system that are running scripts and everything else, right? They're hiding that. They're constantly deleting it. They're constantly reloading it. They're constantly moving it around and shifting it to try and make sure that you're not going to see it. You're not going to find it. You're not going to be able to remove it yourself. If you have a forensics team that can actually do that. So the sooner you get the FBI involved, the sooner that things can start being kind of looked at and everything else like that too. Some companies have cybersecurity insurance. So if they have, like, I don't know, that part of the problem too is, like, I don't know our internal security structure that we had there at the dealership. I don't know if we had a third-party security vendor or not. Most companies have a security vendor that are that size or dealing with that kind of information and that kind of money that a car dealership deals with. I don't know what they had. Because again, like at that point, I had no clue what cybersecurity really even was outside of don't reuse my password. And 90% of the time I did that anyways. Like, because I had 15 freaking emails that I had to open up. Like, you know, I got a password for each one of those? Hell no. Obviously, that's all changed now. So, but,
So you call the FBI.
Yeah.
And then they begin forensics.
Yeah, I mean,
then what can you do?
It at least gets them involved.
I need to get things up and running.
They're not going to, well, they're not necessarily going to be the ones to do the forensics. Hopefully you have a security vendor or a team in place, like your actual security operations people, your InfoSec guys that actually work at your company. They're going to be the ones digging through the logs, digging through the traffic, digging through and actually analyzing the data to try and find where this came from. And then you're going to have your security vendor who has an actual sensor on your machines or runs some kind of vulnerability scans for your company. They're going to be able to isolate machines that were infected, things like that. To prevent it from literally going to every computer on your network and your phone system and everything else. Typically. So that third-party vendor is going to be the one that, hopefully if you have one like that, that's going to start doing the forensics with you. They're going to start pulling the information. But as far as that goes, that is it's a crime, right? It's a financial crime. You need to get a hold of the authorities right away. Don't try and take care of it internally and hope that you can fix it. No. Get the authorities involved. Start the process there. Because the longer you take with it, the more the chance that they're just going to get away with it. Which is kind of what happened in this case. As far as I know, there's not like I was in management, so there's probably a little bit of that I don't know a lot of. But I do know that it was paid at some point. I don't know if that was paid after getting authorities involved. So maybe it was paid to be able to trace the Bitcoin. I don't know. Because again, nothing's paid in cash. They're not just transferring money to an account. It's paid in a digital cryptocurrency of some kind that, you know, is then moved from wallet to wallet to wallet to wallet to try and hide who it actually belongs to. Again, none of that I understood at all. And I'm still learning. But yeah, get them involved right away. If you suspect a system is like infected in some way, if somebody clicks an email, that system needs to be disconnected from the network immediately. Disconnect it, quarantine it, whatever you have to do, and then start taking an image of that machine before anything can be, you know, because, I mean, it doesn't even need to be connected to the network for the script to automatically run something that cleans its tracks. It's just a script. It just runs down saying, okay, run this first, check, run that next, check, run that. It doesn't need to be connected to the internet for that script to run if it got on your computer. So it's going to run through. It might be pulling a bunch of data to your temporary files or something else that as soon as you connect to the internet, now it's going to call to a beacon that's going to send the information off to someplace that now you have a data breach, right? But the first things first, shut that thing down, quarantine it, then take the imaging. A lot of this is why you have a lot of companies have what's called an incident response team. So when something does happen, they have their SOPs, their standard operating procedures that they fall back on of how to actually handle the procedure. But in this case, I don't think we had any of that. I don't think that dealership had any of that. I don't think there was anything in place. So my advice for them would have been call the FBI. Don't sit around and wait and hope that you're going to figure it out on your own with a mechanic who used to do computer stuff and another guy who took a class 5 years ago. You're not going to figure it out. Get the authorities involved, get somebody on the phone, and start getting actual work done to fix it. So that would be my advice on that. But so I did that. I did the school. As soon as I got done with the school, so we did an actual penetration test for a company, a nonprofit, while I was in the academy. It lasted about 2 months. We did an engagement where we tested their web apps, we tested their internal network. We did a phishing campaign where I set up an Amazon EC2 with a server, set up to do a GoFish campaign. GoFish is a popular platform, used to be, I don't know if it still is, it was when I was going through the school, used for phishing campaigns for companies to use as a platform to use to send out phishing campaigns in their company to test if their employees would open things. That was my final piece of it, and then you have to test at the end. So the academy doesn't test you for the Sec Plus. That's the oh my gosh. I just had a brain fart. I can't remember who puts on the Sec Plus. Jeez. Wow. That's embarrassing. But you don't actually get your Sec Plus. You have to go test on that on your own after the academy. They'll pay for the voucher to go take the test, but it is an actual proctored exam to take your Sec Plus. So much the EMT was the same way. When I took my national EMT, it was a proctored exam. I had to actually be in a room, could not leave, had somebody there watching me take my exam. So I was kind of used to that. But the exam for the school, you have 2 different certifications you get out of it. Or certificates, sorry, not certifications. One is you have to pass the exam for the boot camp itself, which is a 50-question exam on the entire boot camp, stuff. Actually, I think it was more than that, but yeah, whatever, same thing. But then they also offered a certified security apprentice certificate that they'll do. And not everybody gets that one. It's basically a 48-hour exam. Now it's broken into chunks. So certain parts of the exam are say one exam is 6 hours long. One exam is, 2 hours long, whatever. But it's specific areas that each one of these things is. And it's practical exam. So you're actually setting up, set up a VPC with, 2 EC2s on this one, and then, actually going in and building it using Terraform or whatever you want to use. I chose Terraform because I was trying to cheese it. So I built out all my code the night before, and it didn't work.
What language is this?
So Terraform, okay, so EC2s are, oh my gosh, Amazon, AWS, Amazon Web Services, right? It's the cloud. Mm-hmm. You're setting up a cloud environment. You're setting up a virtual computer in the cloud. And then like a VPC is a virtual private, oh my gosh, no. Yes, sure. I can't, my brain is not working.
No worries.
But it's basically a network. Like you're setting up an actual containerized network. And then connecting those VPCs through different ways and stuff like that, to where you want to have, for this exam, we had to set something up where we had an internal network. So we had, say, San Francisco and New York. We need to connect the two. New York is going to have its own internal network that's protected, but then it's also going to have an external server that can be accessed from public, right? And then San Francisco is going to have a completely different network, but only certain machines from New York can talk to only certain machines in San Francisco. And setting that up, building that in the cloud. That was one part of the exam. I think I had 4 hours to do that one. And I had tried to cheese it and write all my code to build it out. You can actually build it all in just code and then upload that to Amazon when you there's a setting in there you can go and you can actually upload your own script to have it build the entire thing that you want. And so I tried to cheese it and I used that and I built out my code and it didn't work. And I spent 3 of the 4 hours trying to stink and get my code to work because I was just like, no, I know it will work. I know it will. It has to work. Couldn't get it to work. 3 hours. I got an hour left, and if I don't build this, like, I'm going to fail this certificate. Like, this is only one part of the entire thing, but you have to at least have completed each part of it to even go. So then I had to go into Amazon, go into AWS, and build it all manually in an hour. And I barely got it done, and it wasn't fully functional, but it was there. Like, I built it, so I at least got a grade on it. Even it was one of my worst ones, but it was kind of funny. And then we had that, and then we had a 24-hour pen test that we had to do as like part of that cert also. So you literally have 24 hours. As soon as you click the go button, it gives you an IP, and that IP is what you test. And you try and find as many flags as you can within that IP. You have 24 hours. So, I mean, a lot of people, they literally just stay up 24 hours and just freaking hack, run everything they can possibly think of against this thing. I did all right with that one. It was more, I learned a lot as far as stop trying to make it harder than what it is off of that one. There's a lot of stuff that I missed that was just, hey man, all you had to do was right click and go view source on a page. That's all you had to do. But you were too busy trying to dig through everything in Burp Suite, which is just proxy kind of, there's a lot to Burp, so I actually won't even get into that because that thing, you can do a lot with it. And yeah, just simple, like I was too busy trying to run different tools, big tools, things like that, that I screwed up on it. And I did really bad on that one too. Just because I wasn't thinking like simple, which I should have fallen back, KISS, right? Keep it simple, stupid. Yeah, I didn't do that. So I didn't do too good on that.
So how do you use Burp Suite? What is Burp Suite?
So the best way that I can kind of describe it, like think of like a web crawler. Mm-hmm. It's going to crawl each and every direction from a domain you're looking at to try to find. I mean, it has a lot of different uses. So this is just one of the dozens of different uses you can actually use. You can inspect page source off of this. You can do a lot of things in Burp. You can packet capture. You can do a lot of stuff and then send that. So again, that's kind of gets off into the weeds because there's typically not one tool is just used by itself. There's 4 other ones that come along with it that you use those two. So Burp, the easiest way that I can explain it is like a crawler. You're going to capture the information coming across the network, across that domain. It's going to crawl. It's going to look. You're going to click into things, and each time you click into something, it's going to pull another page that it might have information of, how it gets to that page. So when you click the login page, maybe it's going to pop up on in Burp that, it can actually go to index.txt, or it can go to robots.txt, or different pages within that domain that Burp saw it because it routed the information. When you click the login link on that web page, it routed the information through those other pieces that are normally hidden in that domain to get you to the login page. But Burp's going to pick that up. So now you can go back to those hidden pages. I call them hidden pages. They're not really hidden. And go examine those. So it's just a way to build out what an actual domain, like what all is there. What can I go look at? What can I dig into and play around with? So, I mean, a lot of that's just part of the recon phase. Like that's building up. When you're doing a pen test or anything like that, you don't just start out attacking it, right? You go through your recon phase. You're going through everything where you're looking for something, looking for as much information as possible. You're not looking for the weak spot yet. You're not looking for where you're going to attack it yet. You're just crawling and grabbing as much info about whatever it is you're looking at. And all of it's public information. I mean, so it's not illegal to run Burp Suite on something, so that I know of. I mean, I'm sure Casey will chew me out if it is. So after he hears this, I mean, it's the same thing. So Nmap is a common network scanning tool to show all the different IPs not different IPs, the different ports and services that are running on a network. So if I feed it an IP address, Nmap will go through and tell me, okay, well, you got this port open, that port open. It checks your firewall and all that crap. That's not illegal to run. You can run that on Google. Just send it to 8.8.8.8. That's the Google IP. You can Nmap it. I mean, it's going to take forever, but because that's a huge freaking thing. But yeah, so I mean, that's basically. I mean, that was the final exam. Was a lot of technical stuff, a lot of hands-on, and I loved it. Loved every part of it. Wish I could go back and do it again, but I don't have 14 grand laying around. So, finished that. I actually did get that second cert, that second certification for the cybersecurity, or certified security apprentice or something that they give you, which basically just says, hey, no, you legit have the intro level skills to do this job. Like, you're very analytical. You're able to actually, perform the duties of like an analyst 2, not even an analyst 1, but an analyst 2, which is a higher rank, more competent, I guess, analyst. And so, yeah, I finished, went and got my Sec Plus, basically within a month. I went and used my voucher they gave me and went and did my proctored exam and took that, passed it, got my Sec Plus. So now here I am, so it's not even a year. It hasn't even been a year since I left selling cars. So a year before, I was the dummy who couldn't run a freaking computer, and now here I am, legit able to, set up EC2s, set up, Linux environments and different virtual boxes, virtual machines, whatever you name it. All in a very short amount of time. And, so I got done, tested out, and I had actually been on that social media platform we talked about earlier. I won't mention it because, Gab, I guess. I didn't want to mention it because I know that YouTube algorithm does not like Gab because conspiracy. Mm-hmm. So I met a company on Gab, and I started actually posting on there because I wanted to do my own penetration test. I wanted to show that I had the skills. So I did that penetration test with the school, and then once we were done, we did the penetration test for the nonprofit. Once we were done with that, then we tested out of the academy, and so I was done. Now I wanted to actually try it on my own. And so I did a pro bono penetration test for a small company out of Whidbey Island. And the only problem with that one, man, gosh dang it, since it's on Gab, everybody on there's paranoid. Like, everybody's paranoid. So when you reach out to somebody to say, hey, I would like to do a penetration test of your company, they're like, yeah, go pound rocks, dude. Like, no, I don't want you anywhere near my company. And so this guy, he was also a prior Navy intel guy. So of course he's like even more just not excited about the whole idea. So I convinced him, like, no, I'm real. I'm not FBI, CIA, whatever else you want to, like, no, I'm real. I just am trying to make something of myself here. I'm excited. I found a new passion. I love everything about it, and I really want to go. I really want to try. And so he's like, fine, yeah, okay, go ahead. I'm like, well, yeah, okay. But you got to sign paperwork. Like, you don't just give me the go ahead verbally, and now all of a sudden I can do this. Like, we got to go through the legal process, and you got to give me permissions. You got to tell me what's in scope. What can I actually test? What can't I test? And I mean, we went back and forth for probably 2 weeks arguing. Not really arguing. Here's me offering to do something for free, but also probably something that's like not something he really cares to have at all. Yeah. And I'm having to be aggressive like a car salesman all over again. It's like,
I'd like to give you a free colonoscopy.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'll do it for free. Come on, just let me. Yeah, so it was kind of a weird vibe with that. And but no, he finally agreed. He finally signed all the paperwork. But he's like, okay, so you'll give me the report on Friday then. Like, Friday? You're only giving me 7 days to do a pen test. That's not long enough. Like there's no way. You can't do a pen test in 7 days and do an actual legit pen test for a company. I mean, maybe you can. If you're been in the field doing this stuff for 20 years and you know every tool that's available, and you have the experience to write your own custom scripts. But I'm a new guy. Like, I don't know how to do anything like that. So, but I did it. He gave me a week, and I tested his network. Actually, I wrote up an entire report Like, it's probably about a 15-page report with screenshots and different things that I've found on his network, different recommendations, what should be public facing, what shouldn't be, things like that, you know. And I got it to him in a week. It was not as good as it could have been if he had given me more time, but I proved that I could do it, and he was super happy with it. He was pretty thankful for it. And so with that, then I took that and I started applying. So I started applying to. Actually, I'm gonna grab my beer. I started applying to jobs, and I probably applied to well over 150 at least. And I mean, I did that for a month and a half, 2 months of applying to jobs. Didn't hear back from any of them. And these were jobs that like paid $50,000, like significantly less than what I was, you know, used to making at that point. And could not get hired. Couldn't find anybody. And so I went back to Gab and LinkedIn and everywhere else, and I just started blasting on social media. Here's what I've done. This is what I've accomplished. Let me finish this up, like, you know. And yeah, ended up meeting my boss on Gab, and he offered me the position. And I mean, it was very much a social experiment, I guess, in that sense too. Like, because while he said, yeah, hey, my company's going to be opening this position, it wasn't like, oh, we have this position and we can hire you right now. It was, oh, we got to build this position and put everything together in order to actually make it work. And so I just kept pestering him. Probably made him hate my guts and wish they had never reached out to me, because I just pestered him every day, asking him, is it ready? Can I apply yet? What's this? Do you know how much, like, is it going to pay? Just, you know. And yeah, and now I've been there a year and a half. I love it. I love it. There's, I mean, obviously, like, there's frustration in any job that you'll ever have, especially if you are passionate about something. Then you get into it and you're like, well, nobody else shares the same passion that I do. Like, you know, yeah, it kind of wears on you a little bit in that respect, but I love it. I mean, it's right now. So my actual title is information security engineer, which is fitting. My main duty is more of an analyst. I'm in charge of watching basically the security of the network. When people fail to log in too many times or things like I'm the one who sees that. I'm the one who then goes and looks at the system to make sure it's actually you and not somebody else trying to hack into your stuff. That's me. I'm the one watching all of that. And then we work with a third-party security vendor also. And so I am the primary call for them. If they see activity going on, they call me, and then I advise them from there whether or not to quarantine the machine, or, you know, okay, no, we know this is legit admin activity. We know that they're setting up something over here and they needed to actually turn that on in order to do their job. So, you know, stuff like that. And then the engineering part more comes in discovering where the holes are in our security and coming up with ways to fix it. So you're actually, you know, in a simple sense for me, it's building new rules to look for information, right? So if certain things, if a certain type of file is sent across the network, well, I'm writing a rule that's going to tell me, hey, if you see that type of file come across the network, then alert me, right? So it's creating it's just writing automations for finding the information that I normally would have to dig through manually. And telling it, hey, just go find this for me. If you see it, let me know so I don't have to go look for it myself. So it's just, kind of more of that. But I deal with, so we have our actual SIEM, which is the Security Information Event Manager, I believe. That's where all of your data for your entire network is sent to it. And that's where you set up those rules to say, in my data, if you see this, create an alert, right? So that's that. Then we have a security program. Well, we have a vendor that I work with, and I use their platform to do the same for our cloud environments. So now we have one that runs our physical network or monitors that. Now we have one that also looks at our cloud environments and monitors that. And then I have another one that monitors our virtual environments. So not on the cloud, somewhat on-prem or on premises, but it's virtual machines that are used for whether it's testing or a lot of it's for like testing dev code and stuff like that. They'll load it up to a virtual environment, run it on there, so then it's not on the actual network. You're not running it on the live machine, but we can test it in a virtual environment, run it on there, see if it works. And then you can deploy it from there. So I have a security program that actually monitors those virtual environments also. Then I have 2 different email security applications or whatever you want to call them, filters, more or less. So one sits before our email server, and then one sits after our email server. So emails coming through are filtered at the first one, then also filtered by the email service, and then filtered again after it gets to the third one. So it makes it's just redundancies. You'll hear a lot of that in cybersecurity is like, security in layers, like an onion, so I monitor those, manage those, not really manage, monitor. Yeah. And then, I'm on vendor calls a lot. So I'm talking to the vendors when they release stuff, when they're coming up with, hey, this next quarter, here's our pipeline of what we plan on releasing for our product. I'm on those calls just kind of listening. I mean, it's so funny because a lot of these companies think they have to release something that's like, oh, super groundbreaking, when all I want is the ability to search chronologically. So if I have alerts, let me search it chronologically. Let me search it by the date. That's all I want. Like, I don't need your new AI this and AI that. Like, yeah, that's going to be great. But right now, I just want to be able to freaking run a search. Like, give me that first, So it's kind of funny in some ways because that's technology for you, though. It is constantly growing, constantly moving, constantly just on to the next thing. There is no perfecting what we have. Nobody's slowing down and actually looking at the product and trying to make the product better. They just want to create the next best thing. And I think that's going to be a huge issue, especially as we get into AI and everything else. They're not slowing down. to perfect what they have, what they've already have in front of them. No, they just want to create the next best big thing that comes along with it without slowing down and take a look at it. And let's actually make it better with what we have and see if that's good enough before we create something that's freaking way more advanced and something that we don't even understand, you know. But who am I to say? I'm just a washed up military dude, had cancer and couldn't use a computer. So
it's a really great story of perseverance.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't though. I guess that's the hard part. I mean, I've talked about a lot, obviously, and a lot more. Oh my gosh, there's so much more. But I had no choice. There was no choice. If it was my choice, I'd be dead. Like, honestly, there's a lot of times where that's exactly what I wanted. A lot of times where it's like, hey, if I take enough of these tramadol, I'm probably going to take care of the job myself. I mean, I didn't want to, but I didn't have a choice. And especially once I got married again and I had my girls. It was like, well, now, there is no giving up. There is no even wishing you could give up now. You better just make it happen because you have a family to take care of. Like, I don't care if I have to work 2-3 jobs. If I went back to working at Taco Bell or Walmart or whatever, like, I don't care. I'll go do it. And then to make up for the rest of the money, I'll go find something else to do. I have no problem with that, you know. But the majority of my story, like the majority of it, I did not, like, there was really not even any persevering. It was like, you don't have a fucking choice. You're going through this and you better make something of it. Like, you know, so that was kind of, I mean, and again, like, I mean, my wife will hate that I swore so much, but that's me. But I attribute a lot of my ability, or not even ability, not even willingness, but just tenacity with it, I guess, was my faith. A lot of it came down to, all right, Lord, I see this is what we're doing now. Like, okay, guide me. Give me some kind of wisdom that I can pull from to make it through this, because I don't want to be here. Like, physically, I don't want to be here. I'd much rather be dead. Like, you know, and just praying. I mean, there's a lot of laying in bed when I was going through chemo and not being able to, I couldn't move, couldn't walk, couldn't get out of bed, couldn't do anything. And just laying there wishing I could just freaking die. Just let me, come on. Lord, like, I know you're there and I know you're protecting me and I know that you have my best interest and I know that you will turn all things to good. I know these things, but I am done. Like, I have nothing left. There's nothing here. And the only thing I had was leaning on my faith in it, and being like, all right, I'm miserable now, but you're going to use it in some way, you know? So yeah, I mean, I relied on my faith a lot, and that's what, like, I leave it out sometimes in things, but like how I met my wife, pure faith, 100%. There's no reason that woman should have ever married me, being the type of person I am, or that I was. Like, I was not a good person, especially after all the shit that I had been through. I was not a good person. And it was actually a friend of ours, one of the firefighters' wives. I was doing odd jobs for them around their place, mainly just yard work and stuff, while I was trying to get on my feet, while I was working at the post office too. And she introduced us. She had us over for a blind date kind of thing. And I knew what it was, and so did she. And the night that it was happening, we both were like, I had stopped. I had just gotten done with my mail route. I'm like, I'm not fucking going. I'm not going. Like, I don't have the energy to deal with this right now. I don't want to go meet some prissy chick. Like, I don't want to do any of that. And I called the lady that was setting this up, and I was just trying to like summon the courage to be like, I'm not coming, because I also really adored these people, so I like don't want to hurt their feelings. And she's like, "Oh, you're gonna be so excited when you get here. You're gonna really want to be here." And I'm like, God, shit. All right, let me go shower. So then went, got cleaned up, and drove up there. And I walk in, and there's my wife now, but you know this girl there. I'm like, hey. She ain't half bad. Like, all right. She would not look at me, make eye contact, gesture at me the entire night. I thought for sure, I was like, she does not want anything to do with this really crusty old freaking veteran, I guess. But yeah, she's nothing. You're not that old. Not a word, dude. You keep
calling yourself.
Oh, I feel old.
You don't even look old.
I feel miserably old. Like, everything in me tells me I'm much older than what I am.
I can understand
that. So I didn't think she wanted anything to do with me. I tried to walk her out to her car that night. Like, I was like, hey, you know, I'll walk you out. She was actually receptive to that until the people that set us up, their son had come to that dinner with his wife that night, and they literally were like walking out with us. They would not like, I tried to like hang back and let them like go, and they like were hanging around us like, yeah,
gotcha, obviously, totally oblivious
and I'm
of
like,
the situation.
Damn it, just go so I can freaking walk this chick out to her car, maybe ask her for her number. Like, it was the most awkward thing. I'm walking out there, and at the time I drove a big old F-350. It's a 99 F-350, had the 7.3 liter diesel in it, and it was huge. This truck was a limo.
Yeah, big old F-350.
8-foot bed, like it was massive. And she thought that it was their son's truck or something that he had drove. God. And she was like, oh, no way. Like, that's a really nice truck. Oh, should have gone for that guy probably, you know, kind of thing. And then I walk over and jump in it. And it's my truck. You know, I guess that was her point of like, oh, hey, you know, he's got a pretty nice truck.
Pickup, man.
Exactly. Like, yeah.
Oh, God.
Set my truck on fire, roll it down a hill. Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, and so I didn't get her number, of course, because I'm a freaking moron.
That is what it is.
It was Super Bowl that year. Oh, shoot, man. She's going to murder me. 2014? 2013.
Well, you're
2013.
You're all over. It's okay.
Dude, I've
been a while.
Banged around so much.
What color was your truck?
Black.
Okay. Yeah. I was imagining puke green with the fucking white.
No. No, it was that was actually the truck's name. I named her Black Velvet. Cool. After the booze, Black Velvet.
Yeah.
But she was black, had the running lights on top, freaking big old massive 8-foot bed, and I mean had a not even that big of a lift. And I had like I think a 4-inch lift on it and some pretty good sized tires.
Great gas mileage.
Oh yeah, I mean, no, the thing was a dog, but it could pull a friggin' mountain. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, that truck was a beast. I miss that truck. I love that truck. But yeah, so it was probably about 2 months after that. It was the Super Bowl that year, and one of the firefighters puts on a big event out at his place for all the firefighters to come out. So I went to the event and, saw this firefighter and his wife that had set us up, our friends. And I was like, hey, have you heard from Erica? And they're like, yeah, actually, she really liked you. I'm like, oh, you could have fooled me. I thought she freaking despised me. She didn't talk to me all night. They're like, and we laughed and everything. I was like, well, would it be okay if I got her number? I'd like to call her. And she's like, well, I don't know. So she went and texted Erica, and evidently Erica's like just freaking out and like asking her mom and her friends and like, should I give him my number? Should I let him know? Like, what do I do? What do I do? And they're like, yeah, it's not like you're marrying this guy. Like, it's just a dude to talk to. Like, give him your number. And so then I got her number, and we started talking, and then I took her on an actual date, and it was actually just to a little coffee shop here, actually right down the road, Forza, when it was still there. That's where we had our first date, and we sat there for 4 hours talking. It was the best time I've ever had. Like, it was amazing. It was really cool. And then on the way out of the parking lot, I was trying to tell her, like, hey, I don't trust very easily, right? Like, I don't trust people. I've been screwed over a lot. And so me, in my amazing gift of gab, I told her, I'm not trustworthy. So she of course didn't know what to do with that. I'm like, no, that's not what I meant. I'm not trying to tell you I'm not trustworthy. I'm trying to say I don't trust people. And so we got a good kick out of that one. And yeah, and then we started actually formally dating. And a year later I proposed, and then about 7 months after that we were married. And now we've been together for 8 years. Been married 8 years. Yeah. Got 2 daughters that are just gonna be hellions on earth. And smart. So smart. Like scary smart. And yeah, so kind of a crazy turn of events, and that's just from 2005 till now. So that doesn't even include half the shit that I did before that.
So what do you want to be when you grow up?
I have no idea. I've done too many things now, but at this point, I'm sticking, like, cybersecurity is my new passion. Yeah. I love everything about it. Mm-hmm. My ultimate goal, I don't know where I want to end. I want to experience it all. Mm-hmm. I want to be part of Red Team. I want to be part of GRC, writing GRC stuff. I'd love to do that. That'd be great. I'd love to get into more of the management side, whether or not it's, cloud management or any cloud security manager or something, like any of those really sound interesting to me. Getting into the CISO part, like your chief information security officer, that's the guy who pretty much, if something happens to your company, he's the one getting fired. That's about the only one that I'm like, I know I could do it, and I know that I could do it well, given enough time. But I don't know if I really want the stress that comes with it. Like, I've had enough stress, and that doesn't sound fun. Like, to have my head on the chopping block all the time. So I don't know. I'm also looking at starting my own company. That's something I've been mulling over since I did that pen test as soon as I got done with my academy. So for the past year and a half, 2 years, that's kind of been something that's been on the back of my mind. I have done a couple other security consulting kind of stuff, more the non-intrusive type. So I'm not actually testing a network. I'm mainly just going in and talking to them and being like, hey.
Consulting.
Yeah, exactly. It's just going in and just telling them like, hey, this is the stuff that you should probably fix. That just based off of a visual even, or off of what you're telling me. These are the things that you should consider fixing. So I'm kind of thinking of that. But again, I've only got 2 years experience.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really hard to like justify that to somebody. Hey, let me do a security consultation for you. How long you been doing it? 2 years. Like, oh yeah, okay. While I know that I have the knowledge there, I just lack the experience. But who knows? I mean, where I'm going to frame it around is probably more towards smaller companies. I'm not looking to do, what, CrowdStrike does or Rapid7 or any of these big security companies. I'm not looking to do that. It would be more, more intimate kind of thing.
So what podcasts or books do you read?
Oh, so I'm a video gamer.
Okay.
So I watch Markiplier. That was one of them. Mainly, I just love his attitude. I really like. The dude's filthy rich, but he doesn't act like it. Yeah. In any way, so it's really cool. I like watching him. I try to stay away from the satire crap. I don't watch Mr. Beast. I don't watch, I know who they are, but I don't watch any of them. Same thing, the Paul brothers. I don't watch any of that either. I'm not interested in that kind of crap. So I watch, like Sean Ryan show, Joe Rogan. Love Joe Rogan. Russell Brand is one that I never thought, because I always kind of thought of him more, kind of being a weirdo.
Yeah, he's
and
a very
actually,
intellectual guy.
The he's smart.
He's a good actor. That's
smart.
The thing why you thought he was a weirdo. He's just good at acting like one.
And then, some of the more tech-related ones. David Bombal. He's a huge one. Everybody knows who David Bombal is. Talking Sasquatch. That guy. He's the one that got me convinced to buy a little toy called the Flipper Zero.
What's the Flipper Zero?
It's a gadget. It's just like, Casey showed some of his toys and stuff. He showed that one. It's
the rubber ducky?
Yeah, well, kind of, yeah. But it can do a lot of things. It can read RF codes. It can use infrared to take over a TV. You can use it as a remote basically for a TV. There's some pretty hokey stuff out there with that, with people supposedly using it to change street lights and stuff. It's not powerful enough. There might be things to be able to make it more powerful to maybe be able to do it, but it's not powerful enough to do that. That's all a joke. You can take over, intercom systems in stores with it. I haven't. I actually haven't done much with it. I did scare my mother-in-law with it, just to show, because I think the biggest thing that I learned is how easy it is. How easy it is to take information, to scam people, to hack people, to steal from them. It is the easiest thing that I never knew. And one of the things, like this little tool, you can place it on your debit card and pull the information off the debit card. And then I have the expiration date, I have the card number, I have the username, all of it right there. The only thing it doesn't grab is your security code off the back, right? That 3-digit code. That's just 3 digits. There's a million stores out there. So I can take that card and I can run it through a million different pay sites to buy crap with a different combination, which again, you can just automate because you can just set up a script that runs it and tells it, go, okay, run these security codes on these different websites, shoot it off, get that security code. Once it dings and says, okay, well, now you just bought this thing. Well, now you just have that entire card. And, you know, so, I mean, things like that is stupid easy to do. And it's kind of scary. It's kind of scary. Like how the mass majority of people, again, going back to how fast technology's taken off, we're behind in security at least by 20 years. In like knowledge, in educating people, we're behind by at least 20 years in how we actually secure things versus the technology we have now. So, I mean, it's kind of scary because on one hand, the bad stuff is super, super easy to do. And the good stuff of like finding it all, we're so far behind that we're never going to freaking catch up, you know? And
no better time to be a
yeah.
guy.
Yeah, so I love it though, because again, like I'll go either way. I'll be the bad guy, I'll be the good guy. You just give me the opportunity, pay me enough money. So not really meaning that I'll be the bad guy, but
well, the feds have definitely set you up. They'll try.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah. No, it's. I mean, that's I don't know. Again, the joke that I tell over and over again is this world's been trying to kill me since I got here. Like, I mean, it's literally physically tried to kill me several times, and I'm still here. So God's got a plan somewhere for me, I guess. And I mean, this job, my wife and I prayed about it because I mean, it's scary to leave a full-time job to not working at all with a family and a new baby on a whim to do something that I have no background in whatsoever. No knowledge of, no idea how to even do anything. And if it, again, that was us falling on our faith and trusting. Like, okay, Lord, for one, put our hearts at ease that this is what you want us to do. Like, give us the peace that says we're going to, like, we feel at peace that we know we're going to be okay. And then I'll take the jump, then I'll go for it. I did that with the car sales too. Because I had brought up car sales probably 6 months before I actually went into car sales. I brought it up to my wife. And she's like, no, you're not selling cars. Like, nope, not a chance. And 6 months later, it was like a totally different conversation. She's like, we had been praying on it and everything. And she's like, no, this is what you have to do. Like, there is no apprehension about it at all. This is what you have to do. You have to go sell cars. I was like, that's kind of quite a bit of a turn in 6 months that all of a sudden now I have to go sell cars versus you'll never sell cars. And same thing with this. Same thing. Just pray, stay faithful, and wait for the opportunity. And then be willing to jump too, when it comes up. Yeah, be tenacious. Don't stop. Like, once you've given the go, once you've been told, go ahead, don't stop. Keep going. Dig in. Get it done. Don't be afraid to fail. all the other BS one-liners that I can think of plugging in here, I guess, on that. There is, I was watching the Sean Ryan show last night, specifically the Tom Satterley interview, and towards the end of that was a 3-part interview, which is pretty rare, and they're all an hour and a half to 2.5 hour long, like, segments. So it was towards the end of that one. And Tom actually had said a lot of what I just said there too. Like, there's no excuse. Like, you're the only thing stopping you. 100%. Who cares what anybody says, what anybody's laughing at you about, whatever it may be? Who cares? Doesn't matter. You are the only thing stopping you. Money's not stopping you either. Look at even the platform that this is going to be, YouTube. There is not one single thing that you can't learn for free.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah, that's me.
Well, you freaking nailed a lot, and we're already at 3 hours.
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
No.
I'm sorry.
A great conversationalist.
I'm sorry, gentle listener. No.
That is good. So, last but not least, where can people find you?
So, you can find me in hell. LinkedIn. Just Lucas Yamane, Yamane. Yeah, I mean, you'll see. Actually, that's funny because my wife was laughing at me. This shirt and this hat are the exact same that I'm wearing in my picture on LinkedIn. So if they watch the first 20 minutes of it and they see the video, they'll know it's me right off the bat. So, because it's exactly this shirt and this hat, and that is honestly it. I mean, I do have an Instagram. I don't really do much on there. I do have a Facebook also, but again, like, after the shit show with the military and not having one single friggin' person even, well, okay, I can't say not one single person. I've like 2 or 3 of previous squad or service guys that I worked with, are friends with me on there. But yeah, other than that, LinkedIn, hit me up on there. I'm more than willing to chat, kind of share my experience with it. And yeah.
Well, that's 3 hours, everybody. Be sure to like, subscribe, check out his information in the video description below, leave comments, and bye.
Bye.